You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from sleeping longer, from the perfect morning routine, from that expensive coffee, or the newest productivity hack. But if that were true, why do so many people still wake up tired, stressed, and already drowning in anxiety before the day even begins? Why do you still feel restless, rushing through mornings as if life is just something to survive instead of something to live? The truth is, peace doesn't come from adding more noise, more speed, more chaos. Real peace begins in silence, in breath, in awareness. And Buddhist teachings hold the map. For thousands of years, monks and masters have started their days with simple practices that don't just change mornings, they change lives. They transform confusion into clarity, stress into calm, emptiness into presence. Imagine waking up tomorrow not with dread, but with ease. Imagine your first breath anchoring you like a mountain. Imagine silence washing away yesterday's worries. Imagine starting the day with compassion instead of complaints, with patience instead of pressure. This isn't about religion, it's about wisdom. 6 teachings, 6 simple practices that can turn your mornings into a sanctuary and your entire day into a flow of peace. Tonight, as you listen, something will shift. The racing thoughts will quiet. The heaviness will soften. And when the sun rises again, you'll carry with you a calmness no traffic, no workload, no storm can take away. This isn't just a morning routine. This is the art of living. Are you ready? When the introduction fades, the question that lingers is simple but powerful. How do we actually begin? Not tomorrow, not when life feels easier, but the very next morning. Because the truth is, your first moment after opening your eyes can set the rhythm for everything that follows. That very first inhale carries more weight than most people realize. It's the quiet doorway between sleep and waking life, between unconscious drifting and deliberate living. And if you learn how to step through it with awareness, the entire day bends in your favor. The first breath is the point where everything starts again. The body has just rested, the mind has wandered through dreams, and now, in that fragile moment of waking, you are handed a reset. Most people rush through it. The alarm screams, the hand slams, snooze, and suddenly the day begins in resistance. But that resistance carries over into the shower, into traffic, into work. Without noticing, they spend their hours trapped in the same cycle of rushing that began the very second they woke up. Yet Buddhism teaches that the mind is malleable, and if you meet the morning with awareness, even something as ordinary as the first breath can become extraordinary. Taking that first inhale with attention means more than simply breathing. It is a signal to your nervous system. A calm, steady breath tells the body, you are safe, you are grounded, you do not need to fight the day. Neuroscientists today confirm what Buddhist monks practiced centuries ago, that slow, intentional breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering cortisol and steadying the heart. What that means in daily life is simple. If you start in peace, you carry peace. If you start in panic, you carry panic. The first breath, when claimed consciously, becomes a kind of compass. Instead of being pushed by random thoughts, you decide where your awareness goes. In that quiet window, before the phone lights up, before the outside world demands your energy, you have a chance to touch the core of yourself. That breath can be a reminder that you are alive, that this day is new, and that whatever happened yesterday has ended. Buddhism often speaks of impermanence, the truth that nothing lasts forever. When you breathe in at dawn, you are literally taking in proof of impermanence. Yesterday is gone. The night has passed. A new cycle begins, and you have a choice about how to meet it. Some traditions advise placing a hand gently over the chest upon waking and feeling the rise and fall of the breath. This small gesture connects awareness to the body, preventing the mind from racing outward too soon. The practice isn't about holding the breath or controlling it, but about witnessing it, to notice air filling the lungs, to feel the rhythm of life itself moving through you is to touch something sacred in the simplest way possible. It reframes waking from a mechanical routine into a spiritual practice. Think of how most people reach for their phone the instant they wake. That small habit scatters attention. Before they've even spoken a word, their mind is already fragmented: emails, notifications, news, worries. The first breath, on the other hand, gathers attention. It centers rather than scatters. It allows you to begin with presence rather than distraction. And presence is the root of every Buddhist teaching. When you are present, you can see reality clearly. When you are absent, you are lost in illusions. Awareness of the first breath also teaches humility. Each inhale is borrowed, never guaranteed. When you wake and honor that breath, you recognize that life itself is a gift renewed every morning. Many people only realize the value of breathing when illness steals it, when stress shortens it, when anxiety makes it shallow. By starting the day aware of something so basic, you train gratitude before the mind has time to complain. Gratitude is not just a thought, but a felt experience in the chest, and the breath is the direct doorway to it. Another layer of the practice lies in intention. Once you've centered on the breath, the mind naturally softens. This is the perfect moment to plant a seed, not a long to-do list or grand resolutions, but a quiet intention to be kind today, to meet challenges with patience, to walk through the hours with clarity. In Buddhist thought, the morning mind is pliable, like soft clay. Shape it with anger, and anger will harden. Shape it with compassion, and compassion becomes the form of your day. The breath is the tool that shapes the clay. There is also a subtle lesson about control. The breath arrives on its own. You don't force it while asleep. You don't command it to return when it leaves. It comes and goes freely. When you acknowledge this on waking, you see that control is often an illusion. What you can do is meet what arises with awareness. That shift from grasping to observing is the foundation of equanimity. You don't control the world, but you can choose how you breathe with it. Over time, this practice builds resilience. Imagine starting every day not with tension, but with an anchored calmness that cannot be shaken easily. When you face difficulties, later traffic, arguments, deadlines, there is already a buffer inside you. That buffer was built with your very first breath. You carry into the storm the calm of the morning. It doesn't mean challenges disappear. It means you are no longer at their mercy. This practice is deceptively simple, and that is its strength. You don't need equipment. You don't need a quiet monastery. You only need awareness when you wake. If you practice consistently, the body begins to remember. The moment your eyes open, awareness will arise naturally, as if the breath itself is calling you to attention. Monks often describe this as waking twice, once from sleep and once into awareness. The second waking is what transforms ordinary life into mindful living. Practical steps can deepen the habit. Before sleep, remind yourself, tomorrow I will meet my first breath with awareness. This sets the intention so the mind is primed. When the alarm goes off, resist the impulse to rush. Let the first inhale be slow, gentle, deep. Feel it expand in the chest, and notice the exhale release the heaviness of sleep. Stay with this cycle for just 3 conscious breaths. That's enough. 3 breaths done with awareness can be more powerful than 100 rushed. Science supports this. Studies on mindfulness-based practices show that even brief morning meditation, sometimes as little as 2 minutes, reduces reactivity throughout the day. The nervous system learns stability. Cortisol spikes, which are usually highest in the early morning, are softened. This biological shift means less irritability, better focus, and more emotional balance. Buddhism discovered this truth intuitively. Modern research now validates it with data. Some might ask, what if I forget? What if I wake and fall straight into old habits? That too is part of the practice. Awareness is not about perfection, but about returning. If you miss one morning, start the next. Each day offers a fresh chance. No guilt, no judgment, only return. In fact, noticing that you forgot is itself awareness. It proves the practice is working, because you're catching yourself. Over time, the distance between forgetting and remembering grows shorter. In monasteries, the gong or bell often serves as a signal to return to the breath. In daily life, your alarm clock can serve the same purpose. Instead of cursing it, treat it as the morning bell of mindfulness. When it rings, it is not just telling you to wake the body, but to wake the mind. That reframe alone can transform annoyance into gratitude. There's a hidden gift in starting the day this way. You begin to notice subtleties you used to overlook. The softness of the sheets, the coolness of the morning air, the faint light filtering through the curtains. These details, usually drowned out by rushing, become vivid when seen through awareness. And noticing them shifts your brain toward appreciation rather than deprivation. A mind trained in appreciation suffers less from comparison because it finds joy in what is already present. This first breath practice also aligns you with compassion. How? Because when you start centered, you carry less agitation. And when you carry less agitation, you are less likely to spill frustration onto others. Every interaction becomes gentler. Your tone with family softens. Your patience with colleagues increases. One breath affects not just you, but everyone around you. In Buddhism, the self is never separate from others. Peace inside becomes peace outside. Think, too, about mortality. Every day, thousands of people go to sleep and do not wake again. To wake at all is a quiet miracle. When your first breath is met with awareness, you are acknowledging that miracle. You are saying, silently, I am here, I have another chance. Let me not waste it. This simple acknowledgement changes how you hold the hours ahead. They are no longer something to endure, but something to use wisely. Over time, mornings transform from something to escape into something to savor. You stop dreading the alarm because it becomes the doorway to presence. You stop rushing through routine because you know the value of the first inhale. You wake not just to the world, but to yourself. And when you wake to yourself, everything else aligns. This is the hidden power of the first breath. It's not glamorous, not complicated, not something you can post on social media, but it is the root of calmness, the seed of awareness, the foundation of peace. And from this foundation, every other practice, silence, compassion, intention, can grow strong. Without it, those practices are fragile. With it, they are unshakable. So tomorrow, when your eyes open and the day begins, don't waste the gift. Let the first breath not be an accident, but a sacred act. Let it anchor you, ground you, guide you, because that single breath holds more than air. It holds the possibility of an entire day lived in peace. And once you know how to begin this way, you will never want to go back. When the power of the first breath has been honored, the body feels grounded and the mind opens like fresh earth. Yet the next step is just as crucial, because breath leads naturally into space, and space leads into silence. Most people run from silence as though it were emptiness, but in truth, silence is the richest companion you will ever meet. It is the soil where awareness grows strong roots, the mirror that shows you what the restless mind hides, the unseen teacher that speaks without words. If you allow yourself to linger in silence each morning before the world floods you with noise, you begin the day not as a slave to distractions, but as a master of your own attention. Morning silence is unlike any other silence throughout the day. It has a texture that is different from the quiet of the night or the hush of an empty room in the afternoon. This silence is freshly born. It has not yet been contaminated by conversations, arguments, news, or demands. It is tender, fragile, yet incredibly powerful. The mind in those early minutes is like a pond before stones are thrown. The water is perfectly still, and in that stillness you can see clearly to the bottom. Once ripples start, clarity disappears. To guard that stillness, even for a few minutes, is to guard your own clarity for the rest of the day. When silence is approached consciously, it ceases to be uncomfortable. Many feel uneasy in quiet moments because their own thoughts rise too loudly. They rush to fill the space with music, chatter, or scrolling. But in Buddhist practice, that very discomfort is the point. Silence does not create noise, it reveals it. The mind has been buzzing all along, and only when you sit in quiet can you hear it. This is why silence is a teacher. It shows you what is there without sugarcoating it. By meeting that noise directly, without judgment, you learn the art of being with yourself. There is a discipline in choosing silence before technology. The moment a phone screen lights up, silence is broken not only outside, but inside. The still pond of the mind is instantly disturbed by alerts, images, or messages. What seemed urgent takes over, even if it is trivial. Silence, on the other hand, places you at the center rather than scattering your energy outward. It helps you set the tone rather than be dragged into someone else's rhythm. You begin to notice how fragile your attention is and how much stronger it becomes when protected in those early moments. In monasteries, mornings often begin with hours of quiet meditation before any work or speech. This is not accidental. Monks know that silence is not absence but presence. In silence, you hear the body waking, the breath deepening, the heart settling. You sense subtle movements, the stretch of muscles, the soft hum of awareness expanding. These details are drowned out by noise, but they are crucial. They remind you that peace does not come from outside input. It comes from tuning into the natural rhythm already within. To practice morning silence at home does not require a monastery. It requires restraint, which is its own form of strength. Upon waking, resist the pull of your devices. Do not turn on the television. Do not open the laptop. Do not rush into conversation. Instead, give yourself a pocket of stillness. Sit upright if you can, or remain lying quietly with eyes closed. Notice the room around you. Hear the faint sounds that exist in quiet, the distant hum of the world, the subtle creaks of the house, the rhythm of your own heartbeat. These are not interruptions, they are part of silence. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of disturbance. Many underestimate the healing capacity of silence. Research shows that exposure to quiet periods can regenerate brain cells, especially in regions linked to learning and memory. Modern science is only now validating what contemplative traditions knew for centuries. Silence nourishes the nervous system. It lowers blood pressure, slows heart rate, and recalibrates emotional balance. When you begin your day with silence, you are not wasting time. You are investing in mental clarity, emotional resilience, and long-term well-being. Silence also refines your perception. You start to notice subtleties that rushed mornings blur away the coolness of morning air, the faint smell of the pillow, the way sunlight slowly shifts across a wall. These are not trivial details. They are threads of presence. Each one anchors you more deeply into the moment, teaching you to live fully rather than skim the surface of your hours. Over time, this heightened perception spills into the rest of your day. You taste food more deeply, you listen to others more attentively, you see colors more vividly, all because you allowed silence to sharpen your senses at the start. Another gift of silence is self-knowledge. Without it, the inner voice is drowned. With it, you hear truths that busyness hides. Questions rise. What am I carrying from yesterday? What is heavy on my heart? What do I need to let go of? Silence makes space for these reflections, and while they may feel uncomfortable, they are necessary. Awareness of them means freedom. Unawareness means being ruled by them unconsciously all day. In silence, you have the chance to choose, to release, to forgive, to reset. This practice also reshapes how you relate to others. When you've tasted the richness of morning silence, you become less reactive in conversations. You don't rush to fill gaps with unnecessary words. You listen more fully. You allow space in dialogue, which often reveals deeper truths. Silence teaches patience, and patience softens relationships. People around you feel heard because you are not just waiting for your turn to speak, you are truly listening. That shift often begins in the quiet you create each morning with yourself. It is important to note that silence is not about withdrawal. It is not about rejecting the world or hiding from responsibility. It is about preparing the mind to meet the world from a place of steadiness. When you start with silence, you enter the noise of the day without being consumed by it. You carry within you a pocket of calm that remains unshaken even when chaos rises around you. Practical application can be simple. Set aside 5 minutes each morning to sit in silence. No agenda, no pressure. Simply sit, breathe, and notice. If thoughts arise, let them pass without following. If restlessness appears, acknowledge it gently. Over time, extend the silence to 10 minutes, then 15. The point is not the length but the depth. Even a short pocket of true silence can transform your mental state more than hours of restless activity. Another practice is to use natural sounds as gateways to silence. The chirping of birds, the soft rustle of leaves, or the rhythm of rain are not noise, they are reminders of the larger silence that holds them. Instead of turning on artificial sounds, tune into these. Let them lead you inward. This practice connects you not only to silence but to nature, reminding you that you are part of a larger rhythm beyond your own concerns. Silence can also be woven into routine activities. Drinking water, stretching, or standing by a window can all be done in silence. The absence of chatter or distraction allows the act itself to deepen. When you sip water in silence, it is no longer just hydration. It becomes a meditation on life's simplicity. When you stretch in silence, the body's intelligence reveals itself without interference. These moments train you to see the sacred in the ordinary. For those who struggle with silence, start by reframing it. Do not call it emptiness or boredom. Call it spaciousness. Call it presence. Call it your inner teacher. Language shapes perception, and when silence is viewed as nourishing rather than threatening, it becomes easier to embrace. Over time, what once felt unbearable becomes the sweetest part of the day. The practice of silence also prepares you for unexpected challenges. Life rarely announces storms in advance. But when you've trained in silence, you are less likely to panic. You've learned to sit with discomfort, to witness chaos without adding to it. That capacity, built slowly each morning, becomes a shield. You meet difficulties not with frantic reaction but with calm clarity. Silence also reveals the power of pauses. In conversation, in decisions, in reactions, the pause is often more powerful than the action. By practicing silence in the morning, you train yourself to pause naturally before responding throughout the day. This alone can prevent countless mistakes, arguments, and regrets. A pause allows wisdom to enter where impulsivity once ruled. The beauty of morning silence is that it grows richer with consistency. The more you practice, the more silence greets you like an old friend rather than a stranger. At first, it may feel awkward. Later, it feels essential. Eventually, it becomes so natural that you crave it, not out of obligation, but out of love for the peace it brings. Silence is also deeply democratic. It requires no wealth, no status, no special tools. It belongs equally to a monk in a monastery and to someone in a crowded city apartment. The opportunity for silence is always present, waiting to be chosen. That makes it one of the most accessible yet overlooked treasures of life. At its deepest, silence reveals the essence of Buddhist wisdom, that beneath all noise, beneath all thoughts, there is a stillness that has never been disturbed. To taste that stillness, even briefly, is to remember who you are beyond roles, beyond worries, beyond constant doing. It is to touch the ground of being itself. When you rise from morning silence, the world appears the same, but you are not the same. You carry an inner alignment that colors everything you do. Tasks feel lighter. Interactions feel smoother. The day feels less like a burden and more like a flow. That is the teaching of silence. It speaks without words, it transforms without effort, and it becomes the quiet strength you lean on when everything else feels uncertain. And so, from the sacred pause of the first breath, you move naturally into the embrace of silence. Both are invisible, both are simple, and both hold immense power. Together, they form the foundation upon which the rest of the day rests, not frantic, not scattered, but whole, steady, and alive. From the gift of silence, the heart becomes open and steady, no longer rushing to react, but listening deeply. Yet silence on its own is not the end. Once stillness is established, the next step is direction. Silence prepares the soil, but what seeds will you plant in it? This is where the Bodhisattva's way begins, not as an abstract idea, but as a living choice made each morning. To rise into the day with a vow to serve others is to shape life not around self-interest, but around compassion. It changes the weight of your actions, the way you meet others, and the meaning you draw from every moment. Most people wake with questions about themselves. What do I need to do? What will happen to me today? Will I succeed? Will I fail? Will I be liked? This self-centered lens narrows life. It tightens the chest, sharpens comparison, and fuels dissatisfaction. The Bodhisattva's intention flips that lens outward. The morning becomes not about what you can take, but about what you can give. Instead of asking, "What will I gain?" you ask, "How can I bring benefit today?" That simple shift realigns the whole day's energy. The Bodhisattva vow is not about dramatic gestures. It is not about saving the world in grand ways. It begins in the small, in the ordinary, in the unnoticed. To hold the intention of serving others is to infuse kindness into daily interactions, a softer tone with your family, patience with a stranger, generosity with your time. What seems small becomes powerful, because each act carries the weight of intention. Without intention, kindness is occasional. With intention, kindness becomes a way of being. Starting with this vow, each morning anchors you in a purpose greater than survival. The mind, left alone, drifts toward personal concerns, anxieties, ambitions. But when anchored in service, it steadies. A morning vow works like a compass. No matter how the day unfolds, you know where north is. When difficulties arise, you can return to the vow. I will serve, I will not harm. I will meet this with compassion. That clarity cuts through confusion. This practice also frees you from the endless trap of self-absorption. Much of human suffering arises not from external problems, but from being stuck in one's own head. By redirecting focus outward, you find relief. Worries shrink when balanced against the needs of others. A heavy heart lightens when lifted through acts of service. Compassion is not only for others, it heals the one who offers it. Each morning vow is therefore medicine for both giver and receiver. In Buddhist teachings, the Bodhisattva is the one who delays personal liberation in order to help others find theirs. While this may sound lofty, its essence is simple. Care for others as you would care for yourself. Begin the day not by tightening into self, but by expanding into connection. That expansion creates resilience. When challenges come, they do not crush you as easily because you are not standing alone. You are standing with the intention to uplift countless others. Practical application of this ritual can be shaped to fit any life. Upon waking, after grounding in breath and silence, bring your hands together or simply place one hand over the heart. Speak inwardly or aloud a vow. May my thoughts, words, and actions today bring benefit. May I reduce suffering where I can. May I walk gently so others may feel safe. These are not empty words. Spoken with sincerity, they plant seeds in the subconscious that influence choices throughout the day. Some may wonder if this means neglecting oneself. The Bodhisattva's intention includes self-compassion. You cannot serve effectively if you are drained. Caring for your own body, resting when needed, nourishing your mind, these are also acts of service because they preserve the energy you use to help others. The key is balance. You nurture yourself not for indulgence, but so you may be strong enough to nurture others. Psychology supports this practice. Studies on altruism show that those who begin the day with pro-social intentions experience less stress and more satisfaction. When life is framed as service, setbacks feel less personal. A failed task becomes not a blow to identity, but an opportunity to try again for the sake of others. Resilience grows because the center of motivation is larger than the self. The Bodhisattva ritual also creates subtle shifts in daily encounters. Without it, you may meet a stranger as irrelevant, someone passing briefly through your day. With it, every encounter becomes an opportunity, a chance to practice patience, to offer a smile, to listen. Over time, this changes how people perceive you. They feel safer, more respected, more uplifted in your presence. In this way, the vow radiates outward, touching lives in ways you may never even notice. Another layer of this practice lies in intention toward difficult people. It is easy to wish well for friends, harder to do so for those who irritate or hurt you. But the Bodhisattva vow includes all beings, not just the ones you like. This universality is what makes it transformative. When you set the morning intention to serve everyone, you soften even toward those you would normally resist. This does not mean tolerating harm, but it means refusing to add more hatred to the world. That choice protects your peace as much as it offers peace to others. For those in busy lives, where service may feel distant, remember that intention itself matters. You may not cure illnesses or change systems, but you can dedicate even your smallest tasks to the well-being of others. Washing dishes becomes an act of care for your family. Sending an email can be framed as service to those who rely on your work. Driving to your job becomes part of providing for others. The vow turns ordinary acts into extraordinary service when infused with conscious purpose. Morning is the most potent time to set this vow because the mind is most receptive. Before the weight of the day presses down, you can plant this seed firmly. Later, when stress and conflict arise, you will find it easier to recall. The vow acts like a thread you hold onto in turbulent waters. Without it, you may drown in reactivity. With it, you remain connected to purpose. This ritual also rewires the narrative of success. In a culture obsessed with achievement and recognition, many people chase goals that leave them empty. Service, however, provides fulfillment that achievement cannot. Helping others gives meaning beyond metrics. Each morning vow to serve subtly shifts your definition of a good day. Success becomes not about what you gained, but about whether you eased someone's burden, brought someone joy, or prevented harm. This definition never loses value. In Buddhist tradition, intention carries immense weight. Even if actions fall short, intention shapes the karma that follows. A sincere vow plants seeds that may flower in ways unseen. Perhaps you fail in patience one day, but the very act of intending to be patient makes the next attempt easier. Intention is cumulative. Each morning vow strengthens the pattern, carving grooves in the mind that naturally guide behavior over time. There is also a profound humility in this practice. By dedicating your actions to others, you acknowledge that life is not solely about you. You are part of an interconnected web. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, the technology you use all exist because countless others contributed. The morning vow is a way of giving back, of honoring that interdependence. It dissolves the illusion of separateness. Some practitioners accompany this vow with visualizations. They picture their heart radiating light outward, touching family, friends, strangers, even those far beyond reach. This mental image reinforces the sincerity of the vow. It transforms words into felt experience. Such visualization is not fantasy, it conditions the mind toward expansive compassion, which then expresses itself in action. The Bodhisattva ritual is also a safeguard against despair. When news of suffering overwhelms, when problems feel too vast, it is easy to shut down. But the vow reminds you, you do not need to solve everything. You only need to bring kindness where you are, with what you have. This clarity prevents paralysis. Small acts become meaningful because they are offered with the same sincerity as great ones. It is worth noting that this vow is not rigid. Some mornings you may feel inspired, other mornings heavy. The vow adapts. Even saying, "May I not cause harm today," is powerful when energy is low. On stronger days, you may vow to actively uplift others. The key is sincerity, not perfection. What matters is showing up to the vow with honesty each morning. Over months and years, this ritual transforms identity. You no longer see yourself as someone drifting through life for personal gain. You see yourself as part of a lineage of compassion, walking the path of countless bodhisattvas before you. This sense of continuity gives strength. You are not alone in your vow, you join a stream of intention flowing across centuries. When practiced consistently, this vow begins to dissolve the very boundary between self and other. You find joy in others' joy, relief in others' relief. Their well-being feels like your own. This is the heart of the Bodhisattva path, not sacrifice, but expansion of identity so wide that serving others becomes as natural as breathing. And so, from the stillness of silence, the vow rises like a flame. It lights the path ahead, guiding not only what you do, but why you do it. Each morning becomes a recommitment to compassion, a reminder that the meaning of life is not found in endless self-concern, but in the steady offering of kindness to all beings. This vow, whispered in the quiet of dawn, can carry you through storms, through joy, through ordinary days, until service becomes not just something you practice, but the essence of who you are. The vow to serve others sets the heart on fire with compassion, but how that vow expresses itself begins the moment you open your mouth. Words are bridges or weapons, medicine or poison, and the very first ones spoken each morning carry more weight than most realize. Speech has the power to either align with the Bodhisattva's vow or undo it in a breath. This is why the practice of pausing before speaking is called noble. It is not hesitation born of fear, but strength born of awareness. A moment in which you check whether what you are about to release will bring harmony or harm. That pause is like the thin silence between notes in music. Without it, sound is chaotic. With it, sound becomes melody. Too often people leap from thought to speech as if there were no gap, but in truth there is always a gap. To notice it is to reclaim freedom. Without awareness, words spill out raw, shaped by habit or impulse. With awareness, words are chosen, weighed, and offered with care. This is not just about avoiding harshness, it is about recognizing the sacred nature of speech itself. Speech shapes reality. Entire relationships can rise or collapse because of words. Nations can shift course because of a sentence. Within a family, the first words exchanged in the morning often set the emotional climate for the day. A kind tone can soften tension. A sharp remark can plant seeds of resentment. By pausing before that first utterance, you choose to sow harmony rather than discord. This is why the practice matters. It is not only about self-discipline, it is about creating a field of peace that extends outward. Buddhism identifies right speech as one of the Eightfold Path's pillars. It is not enough to be mindful in breath or silent in meditation. The way you use words reveals the depth of your practice. Right speech is defined as speech that is true, beneficial, gentle, and timely. The pause before speaking is the gatekeeper that allows you to check these qualities. You ask silently, is this true? Will it help? Is it kind? Is it the right moment? This check, even if it lasts only a second, can transform the quality of communication. The morning is particularly sensitive. The mind is fresh, emotions are unguarded, and family or housemates are often vulnerable in their own transition from sleep. A careless word here can cause disproportionate harm. Conversely, a mindful word can bring disproportionate comfort. The pause ensures that the first vibrations carried from your mouth into the world are aligned with clarity and compassion. There is also a physiological dimension. Speaking too quickly upon waking can jolt the nervous system into unnecessary stimulation. Pausing keeps the rhythm gentle. You align body and mind before transmitting energy through sound. Neuroscience shows that deliberate pauses regulate the prefrontal cortex, giving reason a chance to temper impulse. This means fewer regrets, fewer apologies, and more trust built over time. Practicing the noble pause does not mean avoiding speech or becoming stiff. It means inserting a breath of awareness between impulse and expression. This breath softens tone, clarifies thought, and prevents unnecessary harm. Over time, it builds a reputation of steadiness. People learn that your words can be trusted, that you do not speak carelessly. This trust becomes a form of power, not dominating power, but the power of integrity. One practical approach is to begin the day with silence and extend it into the first interaction. Before greeting someone, take a conscious breath. Feel the body settle. Then let words arise not from reflex, but from sincerity. Even a simple good morning spoken with awareness carries a different energy. The listener feels not only the phrase, but the presence behind it. This transforms a routine exchange into a genuine connection. Another layer of the pause is its ability to reveal intention. Sometimes, under the surface of words, there is hidden frustration, fear, or pride. By pausing, you see what drives the impulse. You may catch yourself wanting to complain, criticize, or dominate. The pause allows you to question, do I really want to spread this energy? Often the answer is no. This simple recognition prevents countless small harms that accumulate over time. The noble pause also cultivates patience, which in turn nurtures harmony. In modern life, speed is glorified. People pride themselves on quick replies, instant reactions, sharp retorts. But speed often sacrifices wisdom. The pause interrupts this pattern. It reminds you that not everything requires immediate response. Some things benefit from space. By training this habit in the morning, you carry it into the rest of the day, becoming less reactive in all situations. For families, The effect of this practice is profound. Children, partners, or roommates often absorb the emotional tone of the first interactions. A hurried command or irritated sigh can color their entire morning. A pause before speaking ensures that what you release sets a tone of warmth rather than tension. Over time, this creates a household culture of respect, where words are chosen with care. In professional life, too, the pause becomes invaluable. Meetings, emails, and conversations often escalate because people speak too quickly. When you have practiced pausing each morning, you carry that skill into work. You respond with clarity instead of impulse, with patience instead of irritation. This not only improves relationships, but enhances effectiveness. Colleagues trust those who do not lash out or speak recklessly. Spiritual traditions across cultures have revered the power of silence before speech. In Buddhism, the Buddha himself often paused before answering questions, showing that silence can be as instructive as words. In some Native American traditions, leaders waited several moments before speaking in council, signaling respect for the gravity of words. These examples remind us that the pause is not weakness, but wisdom. It communicates that you value the listener, the truth, and the moment itself. There is also an aesthetic beauty to the pause. Words spoken after silence carry weight. They are like drops of rain after a long dry spell, more nourishing because they are not lost in abundance. When you practice pausing, your speech gains this depth. People listen more carefully because they sense that you do not waste words. The pause teaches you to treat language as precious rather than disposable. One way to deepen this practice is through mantra or affirmation before the first spoken words of the day. Holding a simple phrase internally, such as, "May my words bring peace," aligns intention before expression. When you finally speak, the words are infused with this silent vow. This bridges the inner practice with the outer world. The pause also strengthens emotional intelligence. In the gap before speech, you sense your own emotional state. Are you calm, irritated, anxious? This awareness allows you to adjust before projecting onto others. Without it, emotions leak into words unconsciously, often damaging relationships. With it, you can take responsibility for your state, softening your delivery or even choosing silence when necessary. Over time, the noble pause becomes natural. At first, it may feel awkward, as though you are hesitating, but gradually it becomes seamless. Listeners may not even notice, but they will feel the difference. Your words will carry a steadier energy, and your presence will feel more grounded. This subtle shift can transform entire environments, making them calmer and more respectful. The practice also teaches humility. In pausing, you admit that your first impulse may not be the wisest. You allow space for something deeper to arise. This humility protects you from arrogance and strengthens connection with others. People sense when you speak not to dominate, but to share thoughtfully. For those who struggle with anger or reactivity, the pause is a lifeline. It provides the fraction of a second needed to prevent escalation. Anger often burns out quickly if not fed by words. By pausing, you break the chain. You prevent harm that could linger for years. This is why ancient teachings place such emphasis on speech. Once spoken, words cannot be taken back. The pause is your chance to prevent regret. Morning is the most effective time to cultivate this habit because the mind is still pliable. By pausing before the very first words, you set a pattern that echoes through the rest of the day. Each time you speak afterward, the memory of that pause lingers, reminding you to be mindful again. In this way, a single morning habit influences an entire day of communication. The noble pause is not about silencing yourself. It is about refining yourself. It is about learning that the space between thought and speech holds tremendous power. Within that space lies freedom, the freedom to choose harmony over harm, compassion over impulse, wisdom over reactivity. To honor that space each morning is to align with the deepest values of the Bodhisattva path. From here, the journey of mindful living continues. Breath grounds you, silence steadies you, the vow directs you, and the pause refines you. Each builds on the other, layer by layer, until your mornings are no longer accidents but deliberate acts of wisdom. And when mornings are transformed, days are transformed. And when days are transformed, life itself becomes a path of peace. From the noble pause before speaking, awareness begins to flow into the way words are carried. But speech is only one part of the morning. Life is filled with countless small acts, washing, brushing, eating, walking, that most people treat as background noise. Yet these are the very moments where mindfulness can either vanish or deepen. When left unconscious, they blur together into routine. When treated as sacred, they become gateways to presence. The difference lies not in the action itself, but in the quality of attention you bring. There is a profound truth in Buddhist practice. The ordinary is never truly ordinary. Every moment, even the smallest, holds the potential to reveal clarity if approached with reverence. Brushing your teeth, for instance, is usually done with one hand while the mind is already racing elsewhere. But when done with awareness, this act becomes a meditation on care. Each movement of the brush is a reminder that you are tending to the body that allows you to live, speak, and act in the world. The taste of the paste, the sound of the bristles, the feeling of freshness afterward, all become reminders of gratitude for a body that serves without asking for thanks. The same applies to showering. Most people let water run across their skin while planning the day ahead, never truly feeling its texture. But water is not just a utility, it is life itself. To pause and feel each drop striking the skin, to sense the warmth or coolness, to recognize the cleansing not only of dirt but of heaviness, is to turn bathing into ritual. In Buddhist temples, water is often poured over statues of the Buddha as an act of reverence. In daily life, pouring water over yourself can be the same offering, not to a statue but to the living body that carries you. It is not indulgence but respect. Sipping tea or coffee can be equally sacred. Instead of gulping for caffeine, hold the cup with two hands, acknowledging the earth, rain, and hands of countless people who made it possible. Feel the warmth against your palms. Inhale the aroma before tasting. Let the first sip be slow, letting flavor spread fully. This transforms the act from consumption into communion. You are no longer taking in a beverage, you are participating in a cycle of life stretching from soil to farmer to you. This awareness breeds gratitude, which in turn breeds peace. The power of transforming mundane acts into rituals lies in their repetition. These are actions you do daily, often without fail. By infusing them with mindfulness, you create multiple anchors of awareness scattered throughout your morning. Breath may ground you once, silence may hold you for a while. The vow may guide your intention. But brushing, showering, sipping, walking, these are recurring. Each becomes a reminder to return to presence. In this way, mindfulness is no longer confined to meditation cushions, but woven into the fabric of daily life. Turning routine into ritual does not mean adding complexity, it means subtracting distraction. Instead of rushing, you slow enough to notice. Instead of multitasking, you focus fully. Instead of dismissing the act, you treat it as worthy of attention. This shift does not take more time, it takes more sincerity. A shower done mindfully lasts the same minutes but nourishes the soul as much as the skin. There is also a psychological benefit. Modern life often leaves people searching for meaning, waiting for grand experiences to feel alive. Yet meaning is built not from rare events but from the quality of ordinary moments. When you treat brushing teeth as sacred, you stop waiting for meaning to appear elsewhere. You recognize it here, now. This prevents the endless chasing of something bigger and allows you to find fulfillment in the present. Another dimension is the training of continuity. Mindfulness in still meditation is valuable, but life is not still. It moves, it demands, it interrupts. To carry mindfulness into routine activities is to bridge the gap between practice and life. It trains you to remain present even when moving, speaking, or working. In this way, brushing or sipping tea becomes advanced practice, harder than sitting in silence, but ultimately more powerful. Ritualizing mundane acts also teaches reverence for interdependence. Consider the toothbrush itself. Plastic molded in a factory, shipped across oceans, handled by workers you will never meet. Consider the water that flows endlessly when you turn a tap drawn from rivers or reservoirs, purified, transported through hidden pipes. Each detail connects you to unseen lives and systems. To brush with mindfulness is to acknowledge this web of connection. Gratitude arises not only for the act, but for the countless beings who made it possible. In showering, awareness of water's origin deepens reverence. That flow you take for granted may be scarce elsewhere. To feel its abundance without waste is itself a form of compassion, because when you use it mindfully, you also honor those who lack it. Awareness of interconnection naturally shapes behavior, reducing waste, conserving resources, and turning daily hygiene into ethical practice. Sipping tea offers yet another layer: the pause. Tea is not rushed if treated as ritual. You wait for it to cool, you hold it carefully, you taste slowly. This rhythm trains patience. It counters the culture of speed, where everything is consumed quickly. In this way, tea becomes a teacher. It whispers that not everything must be hurried, that slowness has beauty. Each sip is a lesson in presence. Psychologists note that rituals provide stability. They reduce anxiety by offering predictability and meaning. When routine is elevated into ritual, mornings no longer feel mechanical. They feel purposeful. You wake knowing that each small act can center you, soothe you, guide you. This creates resilience. Even on difficult days, when chaos looms, you still brush, still shower, still sip. These acts become lifelines, reminding you that peace is always available through awareness. There is also a spiritual aspect. Ritual creates sacred space. Sacredness does not require temples or altars. It arises wherever attention is given fully. The bathroom can be as sacred as a shrine when showering becomes an offering. The kitchen can be a temple when tea is prepared with reverence. By shifting perception, every corner of your home becomes infused with spiritual energy. This is the Bodhisattva path, lived not in theory but in action. For those who doubt, try one experiment. Tomorrow, brush your teeth with complete awareness. Notice every sensation, every sound, every movement. Do not let the mind wander. When finished, check how you feel. Most find a surprising calm, as though meditation has been practiced without sitting down. This shows the truth. Mindfulness is portable. It belongs to no place or posture. It belongs wherever you bring it. This practice also dissolves the false divide between spiritual and ordinary. Many believe spiritual life is separate, something pursued in monasteries or retreats. But Buddhism teaches that the ordinary, when approached rightly, is already the path. Brushing, showering, sipping tea, all can carry the same depth as chanting or meditating. When treated with reverence, nothing is outside the practice. Life itself becomes the temple. Over time, these sacred rituals accumulate. They form a rhythm of presence that holds you throughout the day. When stress arises, you recall the steadiness of the morning shower. When frustration appears, you remember the patience of tea. When fatigue sets in, you recall the gratitude of brushing. These memories act as anchors, pulling you back to mindfulness. In this way, ritual protects you not only in the morning but in every moment. This transformation is not about perfection. Some mornings you will rush, forget, or drift. That too is part of the practice. Noticing that you rushed is itself awareness. The next time, you return more sincerely. Over weeks and months, the habit strengthens until it becomes natural. Routine is no longer dull. It is alive with meaning. In the end, transforming mundane acts into rituals is an act of love. Love for the body that carries you, love for the resources that sustain you, love for the web of beings that make your life possible. Each brushstroke, each drop of water, each sip becomes an offering of gratitude. And gratitude, expressed daily in the simplest acts, shapes a life of quiet joy. From the noble pause of speech, you flow seamlessly into the ritual of doing. Breath, silence, vow, pause, and now ritual they weave together, turning mornings into a sacred journey. No part of the routine is wasted. Each becomes a step on the path. Each becomes an opportunity to wake up fully. And when you learn to walk this way, there is no such thing as ordinary life. There is only sacred living, moment by moment, act by act. From the care given to brushing, showering, or sipping tea with reverence, the heart begins to soften and the mind becomes more receptive. Yet there is still a deeper current waiting to be touched, a current that expands beyond the personal body and daily tasks into the vast ocean of human connection. Once the ordinary has been turned sacred, the next step is to infuse that sacredness with qualities so expansive they are called immeasurable. At sunrise, when the light is fresh and the world feels new, there is no better moment to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. These are not lofty ideas for monks alone. They are living forces anyone can plant in the heart each morning, shaping the way life is experienced and shared. Loving kindness is the first of these immeasurables. It is the simple but radical act of wishing well not selectively but universally. Most people wake and their first thoughts are narrow, obligations, worries, irritations. Loving kindness broadens that focus. The morning becomes not about personal gain but about generating goodwill that radiates outward. To practice it, begin by directing kindness toward yourself, not in a self-indulgent way, but in recognition that you too deserve peace. Simple phrases such as, "May I be well," "May I be safe," "May I be at ease," create a baseline of warmth. From there, extend the wish outward, to loved ones, to strangers, even to those with whom you struggle. The practice conditions the mind to approach all beings with friendliness rather than hostility. Over time, this reduces fear and suspicion, softening the edges of daily encounters. Compassion naturally follows. While loving kindness wishes others happiness, compassion responds to their suffering. Sunrise is a potent time to cultivate it, because the mind is unburdened by the day's noise. You can reflect on the reality that suffering is universal. Everyone you meet today will carry some burden, seen or unseen. This reflection transforms how you interact. Instead of judging harshly, you recognize pain behind behavior. Compassion is not pity, it is solidarity. It whispers, "I see your struggle, and I will not add to it." Morning compassion can be as simple as setting the intention not to escalate conflicts, not to dismiss the pain of others, and to act with gentleness even when you are busy. Neuroscience shows compassion practice strengthens areas of the brain linked to empathy and reduces stress responses. Thus, compassion benefits both giver and receiver, weaving a fabric of resilience through human connection. Empathetic joy, the third immeasurable, is often overlooked. It is the practice of rejoicing in the happiness of others. Without it, envy easily poisons the heart. At sunrise, when the mind is fresh, you can train yourself to delight in others' success. Reflect on someone you know who is thriving, a friend who achieved something, a stranger you saw smiling, even a child's laughter. Instead of comparison, choose joy for them. This rewires the tendency to measure your worth against others. Empathetic joy creates abundance. Another's happiness becomes your own. In daily life, this means less bitterness, more encouragement, and genuine celebration of others. Over time, relationships deepen because people sense that your joy is sincere, not tinged with jealousy. This immeasurable clears the heart of competitiveness, replacing it with generosity of spirit. Equanimity is the final immeasurable, and perhaps the most stabilizing. It is the balance of mind that holds steady in both joy and sorrow. Sunrise offers a metaphor for this. No matter what happened yesterday, the sun rises again, impartial and steady. Equanimity teaches you to meet life the same way. You neither cling desperately to pleasure nor push away pain. You recognize both as transient. Morning practice might involve silently reflecting, all beings are owners of their actions. I cannot control everything, but I can meet it with balance. This prevents the mind from swinging wildly between extremes. Equanimity does not mean indifference. It means deep care without attachment. With it, you can love without possession, help without burnout, and act without being destroyed by outcomes. The power of practicing these four qualities at sunrise lies in their expansiveness. Unlike limited goals, they are boundless. You cannot exhaust loving kindness. There is no end point. You cannot measure compassion or empathetic joy. Equanimity is not dependent on circumstance. By cultivating them in the morning, you align yourself with qualities larger than personal concerns. This gives perspective. Daily problems shrink when placed against immeasurable states of mind. Practical methods can anchor these qualities. Some chant traditional phrases, repeating them softly with each breath. Others use visualization, picturing light radiating from the heart to all beings. Even a simple pause at sunrise, silently wishing well for those around you, is enough to begin. What matters is sincerity and consistency. Over weeks and months, the neural pathways of the brain shift, making kindness and balance the default rather than exceptions. The four immeasurables also act as antidotes. Loving kindness counters ill will, compassion counters cruelty, empathetic joy counters envy, equanimity counters attachment and aversion. By practicing them daily, you gradually erode the roots of suffering within yourself. This transformation is not sudden, but it is steady. Each morning adds another layer, until you find yourself reacting differently in situations that once triggered anger, jealousy, or despair. There is also a communal impact. These qualities do not stay contained. They ripple outward, influencing how you treat family, colleagues, strangers. A kind word instead of irritation, patience instead of judgment, joy instead of envy. Each interaction changes the emotional climate around you. Others feel safer, more uplifted, more open. This ripple effect is immeasurable too, because you may never know how far it reaches. A compassionate act toward one person may inspire them to act compassionately toward another, creating a chain of kindness. At sunrise, these qualities feel especially natural because nature itself models them. The sun does not choose whom to shine on. It offers warmth to all, without discrimination. This is loving kindness. It softens the chill of night, easing discomfort. This is compassion. It makes plants grow and flowers bloom, offering beauty for everyone to enjoy. This is empathetic joy. And it rises each day without clinging to praise or fearing criticism. embodying equanimity. To align yourself with this rhythm is to live in harmony with the universe itself. Integrating the four immeasurables into your morning requires no elaborate ritual, it requires willingness. You may sit quietly for 5 minutes, reflecting on each quality. You may recite phrases while walking or drinking tea. You may dedicate your first actions of the day, whether sending a message, cooking breakfast, or greeting a neighbor, as expressions of these qualities. The form matters less than the intention. What matters is that you consciously choose to orient the heart toward boundlessness at the day's beginning. The cumulative effect is profound. Over time, loving kindness makes you softer, compassion makes you braver, empathetic joy makes you freer, and equanimity makes you steadier. Together, they create a mind and heart resilient to life's storms. Mornings infused with them set a tone that carries through difficulties. Even when conflict or sorrow arises, you recall the sunrise vow, and it steadies you. The immeasurables also dissolve the illusion of separation. They remind you that your well-being is tied to the well-being of others. To wish happiness for all beings is to recognize that their joy supports yours, their suffering touches yours. This perspective dismantles isolation, replacing it with connection. At sunrise, as the world awakens together, this truth feels especially alive. Ultimately, the four immeasurables at sunrise transform mornings into more than preparation for productivity. They become preparation for humanity. They remind you that before being a worker, parent, partner, or friend, you are a being among beings, part of a vast web of life. To begin with love, compassion, joy, and balance is to honor that truth. From breath to silence, from vow to pause, from ritual to boundless qualities, the morning journey comes full circle. Each step deepens presence, broadens perspective, and aligns you with wisdom. The four immeasurables are not the end, but the flowering of all the steps before them. And when cultivated at sunrise, they carry you through the day not only calmer but kinder, not only steady but expansive, living proof that mornings, when transformed, can transform life itself. When the heart has been expanded by loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity, those qualities are not meant to stay seated in meditation or resting quietly in thought. They are meant to move, to flow into the body, to be carried into the world with each step. After sunrise reflection, the most natural continuation is movement, and the first steps of the day hold enormous potential. Walking can be reduced to routine, a simple shift from one location to another, or it can become a prayer in motion, a meditation that grounds the body, steadies the mind, and embodies the immeasurable qualities you have cultivated. To treat walking as prayer is to see every step as a wordless offering. Instead of rushing toward a destination, each movement becomes deliberate, an expression of gratitude for the ground beneath you and for the body that carries you. These steps are not empty. They are filled with awareness. They connect you to the earth in a way that sitting cannot, reminding you that mindfulness is not confined to stillness. It can breathe through motion. In Buddhist monasteries, walking meditation is practiced alongside seated meditation. The two balance one another. Seated practice sharpens concentration and stillness. Walking practice brings that stillness into activity. For the layperson, this balance is essential. Life is not lived in constant stillness, it is lived in motion, in tasks, in movement from place to place. Walking meditation is training for life itself. When your first steps are prayerful, you set the pattern of moving through the day not with haste but with reverence. The body and mind are deeply linked. When you walk in a rush, your mind rushes. When you stomp in anger, your thoughts follow the same force. When you walk with awareness, slow, steady, calm, the nervous system reflects that state. Heart rate stabilizes, muscles relax, breathing deepens. A few minutes of mindful walking can reset the entire body's rhythm. Practiced first thing in the morning, it ensures that the day begins from balance rather than imbalance. To make walking a morning prayer, the pace does not need to be exaggeratedly slow. It only needs to be steady and deliberate. Each footfall becomes an anchor. You feel the heel touch, then the sole, then the toes. You notice the shifting of weight, the rise of the other foot. Nothing is forced. It is natural movement witnessed with full awareness. Some coordinate steps with breath. One inhale for a step, one exhale for the next. Others repeat a phrase silently, such as peace or here. The practice is adaptable, but the essence remains: attention in motion. The symbolic depth of walking meditation is vast. Each step represents moving forward in life. By practicing awareness in each step, you remind yourself that the journey matters more than the destination. Most of daily life is consumed by the desire to arrive somewhere else. Walking meditation teaches that you are already arriving with every step. The present moment is the destination. This lesson, when internalized in the morning, reshapes the rest of the day. You no longer chase after future moments with such desperation. You recognize value in the step you are taking right now. There is also a profound relationship with the earth in this practice. When you walk with awareness, you feel the ground meeting you. Instead of treating the floor, the grass, or the pavement as mere surfaces, you sense them as support. The earth literally holds you, step after step. In Buddhist teaching, mindfulness of walking is often described as kissing the earth with your feet. This poetic phrase highlights the intimacy created by awareness. Walking becomes not just movement, but communion with the planet that sustains you. Morning is the perfect time for this because the world is quieter. Fewer distractions, gentler light, softer sounds. These qualities allow you to tune into subtleties often drowned out later in the day. The sound of birds, the coolness of air, the freshness of light, these are not background details but part of the meditation. They support awareness, reminding you that walking is not separate from life but woven into it. For many, the mind resists slowing down. It leaps ahead to tasks, plans, worries. Walking meditation is not about suppressing these thoughts, but noticing them without letting them pull you away. When thoughts arise, return to the step, feel the body, sense the rhythm. This act of returning is itself the practice. Each return strengthens attention, like training a muscle. Over time, you become less scattered, more focused, more capable of meeting challenges without being consumed by them. The practice also carries emotional benefits. Walking prayerfully softens anxiety. When attention is rooted in the body and the present step, the grip of future worry loosens. The repetitive rhythm calms the nervous system, much like the rocking of a cradle soothes a child. This is why many who practice walking meditation regularly report feeling grounded, even when facing uncertainty. The body becomes a refuge, the step a mantra, the act itself a sanctuary. This way of walking extends naturally into interactions. If you begin your day stepping with awareness, you carry that steadiness into the spaces where others move hurriedly. Your presence itself becomes calming. People sense your rhythm and unconsciously adjust, slowing down, speaking softer, breathing deeper. Thus, walking meditation is not only personal but communal. It affects the collective pace of those around you. A useful technique for deepening the practice is to link each step with an aspiration. One step may be paired with peace, the next with love, then balance, then gratitude. This layering of meaning infuses the walk with intention. Instead of empty repetition, each step becomes a vehicle for qualities you wish to embody. Over time, these qualities sink into the subconscious, shaping behavior naturally. Another dimension is the physical health benefits. Walking meditation combines the calming effects of mindfulness with the physiological benefits of walking: improved circulation, enhanced digestion, strengthened muscles. Practicing in the morning boosts energy levels and sets a tone of vitality. Unlike high-intensity exercise, walking meditation is sustainable for all ages and conditions, making it accessible to anyone willing to try. Incorporating prayerful walking into your morning does not require long periods. Even 5 mindful steps from bed to bathroom, from bedroom to kitchen, can shift awareness. The point is not distance but depth. Whether indoors or outside, what matters is presence. Over time, you may choose to extend the practice with longer walks outdoors, but the seed can be planted with just a few steps. The poetic dimension of walking meditation also resonates deeply. Each step is a reminder of impermanence. The foot lifts, touches, leaves, nothing lasts, everything changes. This simple rhythm mirrors life itself. Accepting this rhythm in the body trains acceptance in the heart. You learn to flow with change rather than resist it. Walking also ties you to ancestors. For countless generations, humans have walked, migrating, working, exploring. When you walk prayerfully, you join that lineage. You honor those who came before, those whose steps shaped the world you inherit. This sense of continuity adds gravity to what might otherwise seem simple. You are not just one person walking, you are part of an ancient human rhythm. There is also liberation in this practice. Many lie trapped in the future, racing mentally even when the body is still. Walking meditation releases that trap. It says, "You are already here, step by step. You don't need to arrive elsewhere to find peace. You find it under your feet." This realization, repeated daily, transforms how you relate to time, ambition, and achievement. The key to sustaining the practice is sincerity. It cannot be mechanical. To walk as prayer means to walk with heart. Even if distracted, even if restless, the willingness to return makes it real. Each morning, when your feet touch the ground, you are invited again to walk, not just physically, but spiritually, to let each step carry awareness, gratitude, and reverence. By the time you complete your first walk of the morning, whether to the bathroom, to the kitchen, or out into the world, you have already shaped the day. You have prayed not with words, but with motion, not in a temple, but in the simple act of living. This is the essence of walking as morning prayer. Every step a blessing, every step an arrival, every step a reminder that life itself is the path. From the gentle rhythm of walking as a morning prayer, the body feels grounded and the mind begins to carry awareness into movement. Yet there comes a natural pause where movement meets nourishment. The step turns into the act of sitting down, of receiving food or tea, of filling the body with what sustains it. This moment is often rushed or overlooked, but it holds a profound teaching if approached with humility. The practice of the empty bowl is not about the food itself, but about the state of the heart that receives it. To sit before a meal or a cup with the openness of a beggar's bowl is to recognize that life is always a gift, never a guarantee. The empty bowl is a powerful image in Buddhist tradition. Monks walk through villages carrying alms, bowls, not demanding food but receiving whatever is offered. Their practice teaches that nourishment is not about possession but about acceptance. Each offering, whether abundant or simple, is received with gratitude and without clinging. To bring this same spirit into daily breakfast or morning tea is to step into that lineage of humility. The bowl, literal or metaphorical, is a reminder that nothing is owed to us, and everything is given through interconnection. In modern life, eating is often mechanical. People scroll on their phones, rush bites between tasks, or consume without noticing taste. The empty bowl practice transforms this by making eating a sacred act. When you approach food as though holding a beggar's bowl, you strip away entitlement. You recognize that this bread, this fruit, this tea reached you through countless hands: farmers, workers, transporters, sellers. Each grain of rice carries a history of earth, sun, rain, and human effort. To receive it mindfully is to honor that history. Gratitude arises naturally when you see food not as a commodity, but as a chain of gifts. The humility of the empty bowl also reshapes the ego. Most of the time, meals are approached with choice and control. I want this. I don't want that. This isn't enough. This isn't how I like it. The bowl practice interrupts that. It asks you to accept what is before you as sufficient. This does not mean neglecting health or needs, but softening the grip of preference. The practice whispers that satisfaction is not found in endless customization, but in the attitude of receiving. This cultivates contentment, which is rare in a world of constant craving. Breakfast or tea becomes the perfect ground for this practice because it is the first nourishment of the day. The mind is still soft, and the way you receive food sets a tone for how you receive everything else. If you begin by grasping or complaining, the pattern repeats throughout the day. If you begin by receiving with openness, gratitude follows you. Even when the day brings challenges, the memory of that empty bowl remains as a guide. Meet what comes not with clinging, but with humility. The empty bowl is also a meditation on impermanence. Food is prepared, eaten, and gone. The cup is filled, sipped, and emptied. Each act mirrors life itself. Nothing lasts, yet each moment nourishes if received fully. By noticing the rise and fall of nourishment, you train yourself to notice the rise and fall of all experiences. This dissolves the illusion of permanence and helps you live more lightly, with less attachment. Practicing this does not require ceremony. It can be as simple as pausing before eating, holding the food or cup in your hands, and silently acknowledging, "This is a gift." You then eat or drink slowly, without distraction, tasting fully, noticing textures, honoring the effort behind each bite. When finished, you feel not just full but connected to the earth, to people, to life. This connection is the real nourishment, beyond calories or flavor. The practice also awakens ethical awareness. When you see food as gift, waste becomes unthinkable. You eat with respect, taking only what is needed, honoring the effort that brought it to you. This naturally encourages more sustainable habits, choosing mindfully, avoiding excess, sharing when possible. Gratitude expands into responsibility, reminding you that consumption is not separate from compassion. Psychologically, the empty bowl counters scarcity mindset. Many carry a hidden fear of not having enough, which drives overeating, hoarding, or constant dissatisfaction. By deliberately holding the attitude of the beggar's bowl open, willing to receive without demanding you retrain the mind, you learn that enough is already here, that security lies not in accumulation but in trust. This reduces anxiety and brings peace around food and beyond. Spiritually, the bowl represents openness to life itself. Just as it waits to be filled, you open yourself to whatever the day will offer. You stop trying to control every outcome and instead meet life as offering. This shift is liberating. It turns each experience, pleasant or painful, into part of your nourishment. Life becomes less about getting what you want and more about receiving what is given with grace. For families, practicing the empty bowl at breakfast can create powerful bonds. Instead of rushing or eating separately, taking a moment together to acknowledge the gift of food cultivates shared gratitude. Children especially learn through this example. They grow up understanding that meals are not just fuel but expressions of interdependence. This plants seeds of mindfulness that can carry into their adulthood. One way to deepen the practice is to dedicate the act of eating to others. Before the first bite, silently offer, "May this food give me strength to help others." In this way, the nourishment you receive is not only for yourself but for service. The bowl becomes a bridge between personal well-being and collective compassion. Each spoonful is both gift and responsibility. The empty bowl also trains presence. To eat without distraction is harder than it sounds. The mind wants to wander, the hand wants to reach for devices, the urge to multitask pulls strongly. But by keeping attention on each bite, you strengthen presence like a muscle. You learn to stay with what is here rather than chase elsewhere. Over time, this presence spills into other activities, work, relationships, rest. The act of eating becomes a teacher for the art of living. When applied to tea, the practice becomes even more subtle. Tea is not about filling the stomach, but about savoring essence. To hold a warm cup, to watch steam rise, to taste slowly, these are invitations into intimacy with the moment. The cup becomes your bowl, and each sip a reminder of transience. As the tea cools, as the cup empties, you witness impermanence in real time. Yet instead of sadness, this brings appreciation. You value the sip because you know it will not last. Over months and years, this practice transforms relationship with food and drink. They are no longer taken for granted, no longer consumed mindlessly. They become teachers, each meal a lesson in gratitude, humility, interdependence, impermanence, and presence. The act of eating becomes meditation, the table becomes altar, the cup becomes prayer. This shift is profound because it turns necessity into opportunity. What you must do anyway, eat, drink, becomes a doorway into mindfulness. Even more, the empty bowl nurtures equality. When monks receive alms, they do not choose from whom to accept. They receive from all, regardless of wealth or status. Practicing the empty bowl at home carries this same spirit. You recognize that value is not tied to social standing. You honor the work of every hand that made your meal possible, whether farmer or driver, grocer or cook. This dissolves hierarchies in the heart, replacing them with respect for all contributions. In the end, the empty bowl is not about food, it is about how you meet life, with openness, with humility, with gratitude, without clinging. Breakfast and tea are simply the training ground. Each morning, the bowl you hold becomes the mind you carry. Empty, it can receive anything. Grateful, it turns little into enough. Unattached, it frees you from craving. When lived this way, the ordinary act of eating becomes a profound meditation, reminding you that life itself is a series of offerings waiting to be received with care. And so, from the prayerful steps of walking, you arrive at the table not merely to eat, but to practice. Each bite, each sip, each pause is no longer routine. It is ritual, it is reverence, it is the path itself. The empty bowl, when embraced each morning, shapes not only how you nourish the body, but how you nourish the soul. From the stillness of the empty bowl, where gratitude and humility flow through every bite and sip, the awareness of interconnection naturally deepens. It is no longer just about food or tea, but about the sources that make such nourishment possible. Every grain, every drop, every leaf is formed by forces older than humanity itself, the elements that sustain all life. To greet them each morning is to remember your place in the great web of existence. Air, water, fire, and earth are not abstractions, they are your companions. Without them, there is no breath, no body, no warmth, no ground to stand on. To honor them at sunrise is to acknowledge that you do not live apart from nature, but within it. Air is the first to be felt. It enters with every breath, invisible yet essential. Most of the time it goes unnoticed, yet it is the thread that ties you to every living being. The air you inhale has passed through countless lungs, trees, and oceans. Inhaling mindfully each morning reveals this truth. You are not breathing alone. You are part of a shared rhythm, an exchange that has no beginning or end. Greeting air with awareness transforms each breath into a recognition of unity. It also teaches humility. The richest person cannot buy more air than anyone else. It is given freely, equally, abundantly. Acknowledging this gift at sunrise softens pride and cultivates gratitude for the unseen support that sustains every moment. Water follows closely, often overlooked in its ordinariness. You wash your face, pour a glass, or hear its sound in the pipes. Yet water is life itself, flowing through your veins, filling your cells, carrying nourishment throughout the body. To greet water is to remember its sacredness. Rivers, rains, oceans, all converge in the cup you hold. When you drink in the morning, do so with reverence, recognizing that each drop has traveled a vast journey. It may have been part of clouds, glaciers, or ancient seas. This awareness transforms drinking from consumption into communion. Water also teaches adaptability. It flows into every shape. It yields yet overcomes stone. It cleanses and renews. To begin the day honoring water is to invite fluidity into your own life, learning to bend without breaking. Fire, present as sunlight, is another force to honor. At dawn, its return is quiet yet profound. Without it, there would be no warmth, no growth, no food. Every bite you eat is stored sunlight, every movement of your body powered by energy captured from its rays. Greeting sunlight each morning awakens awareness of dependence and interconnection. It also reminds you of impermanence. Light shifts constantly, day fades into night, and each sunrise is a renewal. To stand before it, to feel its warmth, is to receive a blessing that requires no words. Fire teaches vitality, but also responsibility. Its energy can nurture or destroy. To honor sunlight each morning is to set the intention to use your own energy wisely, to bring warmth rather than harm. Earth, the final element, holds it all together. It is under your feet when you take your first steps outside, in the wood of your table, in the grains of your food. To greet Earth is to bow inwardly to the stability and abundance it provides. Every material object you use comes from it. Your body itself is built from minerals and nutrients drawn from its soil. To treat Earth as inert is to forget that it is alive, constantly transforming, offering without demand. Honoring Earth at sunrise grounds you. It teaches patience, as growth in soil is slow but steady. It teaches generosity, as it offers without asking. It teaches resilience, as it absorbs storms and still nourishes. By greeting it daily, you anchor yourself in respect for the foundation of all life. This practice of greeting the elements at sunrise is not ceremony for its own sake. It is a deliberate turning of attention outward, breaking the illusion that life is self-contained. The modern world often separates people from nature, surrounding them with screens, walls, and artificial light. But the truth remains: your body is made of earth, your blood of water, your breath of air, your warmth of fire. Greeting the elements is a way of remembering your true address, not a street, not a city, but the living planet itself. Practical ways of greeting the elements are simple. With air, pause in the morning to breathe deeply, acknowledging the gift of life it carries. With water, take the first sip or splash of the day as an offering of gratitude, sensing its cleansing and nourishing power. With fire, step into the sunlight, however faint, and feel its warmth as a reminder of energy and renewal. With earth, touch the ground, whether soil, stone, or floor, with awareness, recognizing the support it gives. These gestures are small but profound. They reorient the heart from entitlement to reverence, from separation to unity. The elements also act as teachers of balance. Air teaches freedom and movement, water teaches adaptability, fire teaches energy and transformation, earth teaches grounding and stability. To greet them each morning is to invite these qualities into your life. If you are rigid, water teaches you to flow. If you are scattered, earth teaches you to settle. If you are heavy, air teaches you to move lightly. If you are dimmed, fire teaches you to shine. In this way, the elements are not only external but internal, reflected in your own body and mind. Science echoes these truths. Breathwork influences nervous system balance. Water intake regulates health. Sunlight triggers serotonin and vitamin production. Contact with earth supports circadian rhythms and psychological grounding. What ancient practice intuited, modern research confirms. Your well-being is inseparable from the elements. By greeting them daily, you strengthen not just spiritual connection but physical health. The elements also dissolve ego boundaries. Air does not stop at your nose. It flows in and out, shared with trees, animals, strangers. Water circulates globally, evaporating, raining, flowing, always moving. Fire's light touches all without preference. Earth supports all equally. To see this is to recognize that separation is illusion. Greeting the elements is greeting yourself, because you are made of them. On a deeper level, this practice teaches impermanence and interdependence simultaneously. Air is never still, always shifting. Water evaporates and condenses, never fixed. Fire rises and fades. Earth itself changes slowly through erosion and renewal. By honoring them, you align with the rhythm of change instead of resisting it. You learn to live not by clinging but by flowing with cycles. The emotional effect of this practice is subtle but powerful. Gratitude becomes natural when you see the world as gift. Fear lessens when you feel supported by forces greater than yourself. Anxiety softens when you learn to flow like water or rest like earth. Joy arises when you bask in sunlight without demand. Calm deepens when you breathe with awareness. Each element, acknowledged daily, becomes a friend, a guide, a reminder of resilience. In families or communities, greeting the elements can become shared ritual. Children especially benefit, learning early that the world is not backdrop but kin. A simple gesture, such as stepping outside to thank the sun or touching the ground with respect, plants seeds of ecological awareness and compassion. These seeds grow into habits of care for the planet and respect for life. Ultimately, greeting the elements is about remembering your place in the circle of life. You are not separate, not isolated, not independent. You are air breathing, water flowing, fire burning, earth walking. To begin each day with this awareness is to dissolve loneliness and awaken connection. It changes how you treat yourself, others, and the planet. From the humility of the empty bowl, where gratitude for nourishment is born, you step into this larger gratitude for the elements themselves. Food, drink, and comfort are possible only because air, water, fire, and earth conspire to sustain you. To greet them at sunrise is to honor this conspiracy of life. It is to say, without words, I remember, I am grateful, I belong. And with that belonging, the day begins not as struggle but as participation in the vast and sacred rhythm of existence. From the act of greeting the elements, where the air fills your lungs, the water renews, the fire warms, and the earth steadies, you begin to sense that life itself is a constant dialogue with forces beyond your control. These forces bring both nourishment and challenge, both beauty and trial. Just as the elements shift with ease, storms also arrive without warning. And here lies the next teaching: how to meet what is difficult without breaking, how to face obstacles without resentment. The lotus of patience is the answer, a ritual of visualization that turns every challenge into an opening rather than a wound. Patience is not passive endurance. It is not gritting your teeth and waiting for discomfort to end. True patience is a form of strength, one that bends without snapping, that holds steady while others collapse under frustration. The lotus becomes the symbol because it grows from mud, yet blossoms untouched by it. Mud does not soil its petals, rather, it nourishes them. To visualize a lotus opening with each challenge is to remind yourself that difficulties are not enemies. They are the soil in which your wisdom flowers. Each morning, this practice prepares you for the inevitable difficulties of the day ahead. Instead of waking with the demand that everything goes smoothly, you begin with acceptance. Challenges will arise. Traffic may slow you, words may sting, plans may fail. But instead of resistance, you plant an image, a lotus slowly unfolding, each petal opening as a response to difficulty. This shifts the relationship with challenge. It becomes teacher rather than thief, offering opportunities for growth rather than reasons for anger. The visualization itself is simple yet profound. Upon sitting quietly, picture a lotus bud resting in your heart. As you anticipate the day, think of the small irritations that may appear. With each one, see a petal gently unfurl. The flower does not struggle to open, it does so naturally, gracefully. This image imprints on your mind, and later, when challenges come, you recall it. Instead of tensing, you soften. Instead of closing, you open. The patience cultivated in the morning ripples into action throughout the day. Patience is often misunderstood as weakness, but it is among the strongest virtues. To lash out in anger takes no effort. To remain steady requires discipline. Neuroscience supports this. When the mind pauses before reacting, the prefrontal cortex overrides the amygdala, allowing reason to guide behavior rather than raw impulse. Practicing patience daily, especially in the morning when the mind is pliable, trains this neurological pathway. Over time, it becomes easier to respond calmly rather than explosively. The lotus of patience also teaches beauty in adversity. Without mud, the lotus cannot bloom. Without challenge, patience cannot grow. To visualize the lotus opening in difficulty reframes suffering itself. It is no longer something to be avoided at all costs, but something that can feed resilience. This does not mean seeking pain, but recognizing that when it arrives, it need not ruin you. It can deepen you. Each morning, you remind yourself, mud is not the end. It is the beginning of the flower. This practice softens relationships as well. Impatience is one of the most common poisons in human interaction. A sharp word, a hurried judgment, a refusal to listen, these fracture trust. When patience is cultivated, you listen more deeply, allow space for others, and resist the urge to control. The image of the lotus helps here. Just as petals open slowly, people unfold at their own pace. You do not force them, you offer space. This alone can heal countless conflicts. The ritual also teaches humility. Life rarely follows your exact plans. To expect it to is arrogance. Patience acknowledges limits. It admits that you cannot control the timing of every event or the behavior of every person. What you can control is your response. By visualizing the lotus, you anchor yourself in this humility each morning. It prevents disappointment later, because you are already prepared to meet delays and disruptions with grace. On a practical level, this ritual can be incorporated into morning stillness. After greeting the elements, close your eyes and rest your awareness at the chest. Picture the lotus there, and with each slow breath, see a petal unfolding. Link this to affirmations such as, "May I meet this day with patience," or "Every challenge is soil for my growth." This anchors the image not just visually but emotionally. The more vivid the association, the easier it is to recall later. Psychologically, patience increases resilience. Studies show that people who practice reframing difficulties report less stress and more satisfaction. By seeing challenges as opportunities, frustration diminishes. The lotus ritual accomplishes this reframing elegantly, turning mud into nourishment. With consistency, the mind naturally seeks lessons in obstacles instead of fixating on unfairness. The lotus also embodies balance. It grows upward toward the sun, yet rooted firmly in the earth. Patience mirrors this duality, remaining grounded while aspiring to respond with dignity. By practicing this image each morning, you internalize that balance. You learn that patience does not mean stagnation, it means growing steadily, even in difficult conditions. Over time, this ritual transforms identity. You begin to see yourself as one who blooms in challenge, rather than one crushed by it. This subtle shift empowers you. You stop fearing hardship because you know it cannot define you. The lotus within becomes a living metaphor for your own resilience. The practice also deepens spiritual connection. In Buddhist symbolism, the lotus is not just patience but awakening itself. Its opening petals represent the unfolding of wisdom. To practice this ritual is to align yourself with that path. Each morning, you remind yourself that awakening is not separate from daily struggle, it is revealed through it. In daily life, the benefits become tangible. A delayed train becomes a chance to breathe rather than complain. A harsh word becomes a mirror for your own practice rather than a wound. A failed plan becomes space for new opportunities rather than catastrophe. This is patience alive, not as concept, but as lived experience. Importantly, patience does not mean suppression. It is not bottling frustration until it explodes. It is transforming the energy into openness. The lotus does not deny the mud, it rises through it. Likewise, you do not deny irritation. You use it as reminder to open further. This prevents the harm that comes from hidden resentment. Families and workplaces benefit greatly when one person embodies this practice. Patience spreads subtly. When others expect irritation and receive calm, they soften too. When they see steadiness in adversity, they learn by example. In this way, your personal ritual becomes communal. The lotus blooms not only in you, but in those you touch. The morning is the perfect time for this because the mind is still shaping its tone. Patience planted then becomes easier to recall later. It is harder to create patience in the middle of chaos if you have not rehearsed it in peace. The lotus ritual is rehearsal. You build the muscle of patience before it is tested, so when the test comes, you are ready. Over months and years, this practice reshapes how you perceive life itself. Instead of dreading obstacles, you approach them with curiosity. What will this teach me? What petal will open here? This attitude transforms suffering into teacher, frustration into guide. Life remains challenging, but no longer hostile. It becomes a path of unfolding. And so, from the grounding of the elements, you move into the resilience of the lotus. Breath, silence, vow, pause, ritual, immeasurables, walking, the empty bowl, and now patience all build upon one another. Each prepares the mind for deeper clarity. Each steadies the heart for greater compassion. The lotus of patience is the flowering of this path, a reminder that beauty is born from struggle, that strength is found in softness, and that every morning offers a chance to bloom anew. From the patience of the lotus, where each challenge becomes a petal opening instead of a wall closing, the heart learns to meet life with softness rather than resistance. Yet patience alone does not complete the morning path. Once the mind is steady and the heart is open, there remains the need to tune yourself to the day's rhythm, to set the body, breath, and energy in harmony. Just as an instrument must be tuned before it plays, The human being benefits from alignment before entering the world's noise. This is where chanting, humming, or softly voicing sacred syllables becomes a living practice. It is the sound of the morning opening, the vibration that sets your inner current flowing in peace. Chanting is not about performance, melody, or impressing anyone. It is vibration. It is energy carried on sound. When you chant, hum, or repeat a mantra, you are not only producing a sound, you are resonating through your body, nervous system, and even the space around you. The morning is uniquely suited for this because it is quiet, uncluttered, and fresh. The first sounds you create have the power to shape the tone of all sounds that follow. A harsh word or hurried sigh can set agitation in motion, but a chant, soft and deliberate, can anchor calm that lasts for hours. The practice can take many forms. In Buddhist traditions, sacred syllables like Om Mani Padme Hum are used, each carrying layers of meaning. But chanting need not be tied to a particular religion. A simple hum, a repeated word of peace, or even a tone carried on breath can create the same energetic alignment. The key is sincerity and repetition. The sound becomes a bridge between body and mind, grounding you in presence while awakening a subtle sense of connection beyond yourself. Science has begun to echo what traditions long knew. Chanting slows the heart rate, regulates breathing, and activates the vagus nerve, which calms the nervous system. Vibrations spread through the chest and skull, producing a soothing effect that lowers stress and fosters clarity. When practiced in the morning, this sets a foundation of balance that makes you less reactive later in the day. Instead of being pulled by chaos, you remain attuned to an inner rhythm that is slower, calmer, and more deliberate. Chanting also refines attention. The mind often wanders upon waking, drifting to tasks, worries, and unfinished stories. By giving it a phrase, a tone, or a sound to focus on, you prevent scattering. The repetition creates rhythm, and rhythm steadies thought. Just as a drumbeat can bring dancers into synchronicity, chanting brings your breath, body, and awareness into unity. This unity is not abstract, you can feel it physically. Shoulders relax, breath deepens, thoughts slow. The morning becomes less about rushing outward and more about aligning inward. There is also a communal dimension, even if you chant alone. Every sacred sound you utter has been repeated by countless others across centuries. To chant is to join a stream of voices, to link yourself to a practice larger than your own life. This creates a sense of belonging, a reminder that you are not isolated, but part of a long lineage of seekers who found peace in the same vibrations. That connection is deeply stabilizing in a world that often feels fragmented. The choice of mantra or sound matters less than the consistency of practice. Some find power in traditional mantras. Others prefer words of intention such as peace, love, or calm. Still others chant syllables without meaning, focusing purely on vibration. The effect arises from the sincerity with which it is practiced. A whispered repetition with full presence carries more power than a loud chant performed mechanically. Morning chanting can also serve as a bridge from silence into speech. After cultivating stillness, the voice emerges not in haste, but in reverence. The first words of the day are carried on vibration already tuned to harmony. This protects you from scattering your energy in careless chatter. Instead, when you begin to speak, the echo of the chant shapes tone and intention. Conversations feel softer, communication clearer. One of the overlooked benefits of chanting is emotional release. Vibrations move energy that may be stuck in the body. Tension, grief, or anger can lodge in the chest or throat, but chanting loosens it. The voice becomes a pathway for release, turning heaviness into sound that dissolves into space. Beginning the day this way prevents hidden emotions from leaking unconsciously into interactions later. The practice can be enhanced by posture. Sitting upright, with the spine open and chest relaxed, allows vibration to travel fully. Some close the eyes, focusing inward. Others gaze softly ahead, merging inner sound with outer space. Breathing deeply before beginning centers the body. Then, with each exhale, the sound flows naturally, carried not by force, but by ease. Even a few minutes are enough to create noticeable calm. Another dimension is the symbolic power of sound. In many traditions, creation itself begins with sound. The universe is said to have been sung into being. By chanting each morning, you echo that creation in your own life. You begin not by reacting, but by creating harmony through sound. The day becomes less something that happens to you and more something you shape intentionally. Chanting also nurtures humility. When you let sound flow, it is not entirely yours. Air moves through the body, shaped by vocal cords, released into space. The sound arises and fades. You cannot hold it. This mirrors impermanence. To practice chanting is to accept transience. Every tone exists for a moment and is gone. Yet within that fleetingness lies beauty. This trains you to appreciate the moment without clinging, a lesson that extends far beyond chanting. For those hesitant, start gently. Humming softly upon waking can serve as first step. Feel the vibration in your chest and face. Notice the soothing effect. Then progress to words or mantras that carry meaning for you. Over time, the practice will deepen naturally, becoming less about effort and more about desire. Many find themselves drawn back to it, not from obligation, but because the body and mind crave the calm it brings. Chanting can also be paired with visualization. As the sound flows, picture its vibration spreading outward, touching your body, your room, your family, your community, the world. Each tone becomes an offering, carrying intention beyond you. This transforms chanting from personal practice into service, aligning with the bodhisattva vow of benefiting all beings. The ritual strengthens with consistency. Practiced daily, even briefly, it creates a baseline of harmony that accumulates. Over weeks, you may notice that your mornings feel less chaotic, that your words come more gently, that your body holds less tension. This is the cumulative power of vibration. Like water shaping stone, the small daily act reshapes the landscape of your being. Ultimately, chanting the day open is about alignment. Just as instruments must be tuned before they play, your voice, body, and mind must be tuned before they act. When aligned, you move through life not as noise, but as music. The day unfolds differently because you are vibrating differently. Challenges may still come, but you meet them in harmony rather than discord. From the patience of the lotus, you step naturally into this practice of sound. The flower blooms silently, but you give it voice. Each chant is a petal opening, each vibration a reminder that peace is not silent absence, but resonant presence. By chanting the day open, you begin not as a fragment pulled in many directions, but as a whole being, attuned, steady, and ready to walk through the hours as living music. From the vibration of chanting, where sound settles the mind and aligns the body, there arises a quiet readiness to face yourself more honestly. The voice softens the inner restlessness, and when calm has been established, the mirror becomes the next teacher. Most people look into their reflection only to adjust appearance, to check for flaws, or to prepare the face they will show the world. Rarely is the mirror treated as a meditation, yet each morning it offers a profound opportunity to contemplate impermanence, to see with fresh eyes the passage of time, and to practice acceptance rather than resistance. The mirror reveals truths that words cannot capture. A wrinkle, a strand of gray, the shifting contours of skin, these are not enemies. though society often teaches otherwise. They are visible reminders of life's movement. Change is not abstract when you see it in your own face. Each glance carries evidence that nothing remains fixed. To meet this truth with awareness rather than denial is to step into wisdom. The mirror becomes not a surface but a scripture, reflecting the Dharma of impermanence. When you approach the morning mirror with mindfulness, you begin by pausing. Instead of rushing to critique or adjust, you hold the gaze softly. You see not only the surface but the story it tells. Each mark, each change is testimony of moments lived, joys, sorrows, struggles, resilience. This perspective transforms the act of looking into a practice of reverence. The face is no longer judged by standards of beauty but honored as evidence of existence. Impermanence in the mirror teaches humility. The body you see is temporary. It shifts daily, subtly or dramatically, and will one day return to the earth. This realization is not meant to create despair but freedom. When you understand that the face you see will not remain, the urgency to cling to youth or perfection dissolves. Instead, you learn to appreciate the present form while it lasts. The morning reflection becomes a practice in gratitude. This is me, here, alive, today. The practice also exposes attachment. Many resist the signs of aging, using mirrors as battlefields. Creams, procedures, endless comparisons arise from fear of change. But the mirror can instead become a place of acceptance. By meeting your reflection with compassion, you soften the grip of attachment. You see the futility of resisting what cannot be stopped. The wrinkle is not failure, it is natural. The gray hair is not loss, it is truth. Accepting this in the morning prepares you to accept all changes the day will bring. Beyond physical appearance, the mirror reflects emotion. Look closely, and you may see tension around the mouth, weariness in the eyes, or softness in the smile. These are not flaws, but signals. They reveal the inner state carried into the day. By observing them without judgment, you become more aware of what needs care. The mirror becomes a diagnostic tool, showing where kindness must be directed within yourself. This honesty prevents you from unconsciously projecting hidden frustration onto others. Impermanence meditation in the mirror also trains perspective on time. You may recall how you looked years ago and notice the difference. This contrast can be painful if clung to, but liberating if accepted. Change is the law of life. Every face you have worn from childhood to youth to adulthood was temporary. The face you see now is temporary too. This recognition dissolves vanity and pride. It also brings tenderness. You see yourself as part of the natural unfolding of existence, no different from leaves changing color or rivers carving new paths. The mirror practice is strengthened by intention. Each morning, instead of asking, "Do I look good?" ask, "Can I accept myself as I am today?" This shift alters the entire experience. Acceptance brings peace. Resistance brings suffering. By practicing daily, acceptance grows stronger. Over time, it becomes habit, not only in the mirror but in all of life's changes. Science supports the power of this shift. Studies on self-compassion show that people who accept their imperfections experience less anxiety, less depression, and greater resilience. The mirror, often a source of self-criticism, can become a training ground for self-compassion when used mindfully. Each morning becomes an exercise in seeing with kindness, reducing the inner harshness that so often shapes behavior. The practice also prepares you for loss. Aging is not the only impermanence reflected. Health, relationships, and circumstances also change. By training with your own reflection, you build capacity to accept larger shifts. You learn that change is not betrayal, it is reality. This readiness reduces shock when life inevitably alters course. The morning mirror becomes rehearsal for life's impermanence. On a deeper level, the mirror shows the illusion of fixed identity. You may think of yourself as one consistent self, yet the reflection shifts constantly. Which version is truly you? The child's face? The adult's? The older self appearing now? Each is temporary. The mirror exposes the truth taught in Buddhism. The self is not fixed. It is process, not object. This realization loosens ego's grip. You stop clinging so tightly to roles and images. You begin to live more fluidly, more lightly. Practically, the meditation can be simple. After washing your face or brushing your teeth, pause before the mirror. Breathe steadily and look softly. Notice details without judgment. Acknowledge change, speak kindly inwardly, and remind yourself of impermanence. Even a few breaths this way shifts perspective. Over time, the practice deepens naturally. The mirror ceases to be an enemy and becomes an ally. The benefits ripple outward. When you accept change in yourself, you become more accepting of it in others. You stop criticizing their appearance, their aging, their differences. Compassion expands. Relationships improve because acceptance replaces judgment. The mirror practice thus transforms not only self-perception but social perception. The mirror also teaches presence. You realize that the face you see today will not be there tomorrow in exactly the same way. This fleetingness makes the present precious. You stop delaying appreciation. You stop saying, "I will love myself when I look better, younger, stronger." You begin to love yourself now, because now is all that exists. This shift is radical, dismantling years of conditioning that ties worth to appearance. Symbolically, the mirror becomes a teacher of death and rebirth. Each night, the self you were fades into sleep. Each morning, a slightly different self awakens, reflected in the glass. To see this daily is to train for the great impermanence of death. Fear diminishes when you practice small deaths, daily wrinkles, changes, endings. You realize you have already been dying and being reborn countless times. The mirror simply reveals it. For those resistant to this practice, begin gently. Instead of focusing on flaws, focus on gratitude. Notice the eyes that allow you to see, the mouth that speaks, the hands reflected, holding your life. Gratitude softens the sting of change. From there, expand into acceptance of impermanence. Little by little, the harsh inner critic quiets. Over time, this practice becomes liberating. You stop wasting energy on impossible battles against time. You redirect that energy toward living fully. Acceptance of impermanence frees you to invest in what matters: kindness, wisdom, love, qualities that deepen rather than fade. The mirror becomes daily reminder of what is fleeting and what endures. And so, from the vibrations of chanting, the journey continues into reflection not only of the face, but of life itself. The mirror ceases to be a shallow tool of vanity and becomes a profound gateway into impermanence, acceptance, and peace. Each morning, when you meet your own eyes, you are not only preparing to step into the day, you are training to step into life's greatest truth, that everything changes, and within that change lies the possibility of freedom. From the mirror where impermanence stares back and acceptance softens the heart, there comes a realization that this life, fragile and shifting, is never just yours alone. The face that changes, the body that ages, the time that slips, these are all part of a larger flow that holds every being together. Once you see your own reflection as temporary, it becomes harder to live only for yourself. The next natural step is to dedicate your actions not as private victories or isolated struggles, but as offerings. To offer the day to others is to live with a mind that shares rather than hoards, a heart that serves rather than clings. This practice begins in thought but extends into every act. When you wake and dedicate the day to the benefit of others, you shift your entire orientation. The tasks you face, whether grand or small, are no longer only about your advancement. They become part of a larger field of service. Work is not just to earn, it is to contribute. Rest is not just to recharge, it is to return stronger for others. Even struggles are transformed. When offered, they become lessons not only for yourself, but for those who may one day learn from your resilience. The offering does not need ritual objects or ceremonies. It is a quiet vow within the heart. Before stepping into the day, you might reflect, "May whatever I do today ease suffering. May my actions, my words, my thoughts be of use." This vow redirects energy. Instead of chasing recognition, you begin to measure success by the good that arises through you. This is liberation from the narrow prison of ego. There is also healing in this practice. When difficulties arise, they often feel heavy because we frame them as my burden. But when offered, struggle becomes shared. You see your endurance as potential strength for others. In Buddhist tradition, even suffering can be dedicated. By enduring with awareness, you silently affirm, "May others who feel this same pain find relief." This reframes difficulty as service, dissolving bitterness and turning hardship into compassion. Offering the day also reshapes how success is held. Achievements, when clung to, inflate pride, but when dedicated, they become blessings. A completed project, a moment of joy, even a meal cooked, can be mentally offered. May this success ripple outward. This prevents attachment while still honoring accomplishment. Gratitude grows because success is no longer about possession, but participation in something greater. The practice trains humility. To offer the day is to admit that your life is not separate from others. You eat food grown by unseen hands, walk on roads built by unknown workers, breathe air kept clean by forests you may never touch. Every part of your existence depends on others. To dedicate your day in return balances this exchange. It is an act of fairness, of reciprocity. On a deeper level, offering aligns with the Bodhisattva path. The Bodhisattva vows not only to seek awakening, but to serve until all beings are free. Offering the day is a daily expression of this vow. You may not save the world, but you can infuse every act with intention to benefit. This intention, repeated each morning, reshapes identity. You stop asking, "What can I get?" and begin asking, "What can I give?" That shift is the essence of compassion in action. Practical application is simple yet powerful. Before rising fully, close your eyes for a moment. Think of the people you will encounter, family, colleagues, strangers. Silently wish that your presence today brings them ease rather than harm. Then extend beyond those you know, dedicating even to unseen beings, those suffering, those lost, those forgotten. This expansion widens the heart, making your day larger than yourself before it has even begun. Psychology supports the transformative power of such dedication. Studies show that altruistic intention reduces stress, increases resilience, and heightens life satisfaction. When life is framed as service, obstacles feel less personal, and achievements feel more meaningful. You are less likely to be crushed by failure or intoxicated by success, because both are simply offerings. This steadiness nurtures emotional balance. Offering the day also protects against despair. In a world filled with suffering, it is easy to feel powerless. But by dedicating your actions, you reclaim agency. You may not end global pain, but you can shape your own participation. Every smile, every kind word, every act of patience becomes part of the offering. This prevents apathy and nurtures hope, because each day holds meaning regardless of scale. One of the subtle beauties of this practice is how it dissolves comparison. When you offer your day, it no longer matters if your contribution seems smaller than another's. The act is not measured by scale but by sincerity. A whispered kindness is as valid as a monumental achievement when both are dedicated. This frees you from constant measurement against others, planting peace in its place. The practice also builds continuity. By offering the day each morning, you create a thread that ties together actions, thoughts, and feelings. When temptation to act selfishly arises, the memory of your vow reminds you, this is not just about me. That recollection creates pause, and in that pause, wisdom can guide choice. The vow becomes a silent companion, whispering through the hours. In family life, the practice heals subtle tensions. When chores or responsibilities feel heavy, dedicating them transforms resentment into service. Washing dishes becomes an offering for those who will eat again. Working long hours becomes an offering for the security of loved ones. Even personal rest becomes an offering because it restores your capacity to serve. In this way, no act is wasted. In professional life, the effect is equally strong. Instead of working only for recognition or promotion, you frame tasks as contributions to a larger whole. Even tedious duties gain meaning when offered. This reduces burnout because purpose is not tied to personal reward but to the benefit that arises from the work. Satisfaction deepens when you know that effort, however invisible, has been given as gift. The practice extends beyond people to all beings. Offering the day includes animals, plants, the environment itself. Choices shift when viewed this way. Consuming mindfully, conserving resources, acting gently toward the earth all become part of the offering. The day transforms from self-centered activity into ecological participation. You begin to live not on the planet but with it. This practice also softens fear of death. Each day, offered sincerely, feels complete. Even if the day ends unexpectedly, it was lived as gift. This creates peace, because nothing is wasted. Life is not measured in length but in depth of offering. Each morning vow ensures that whatever time you have, it holds meaning. Practicing offering the day is not about perfection. Some days will slip into selfishness, irritation, or forgetfulness. But even remembering at the end of the day, dedicating whatever unfolded, restores the practice. Nothing is excluded. Even mistakes can be offered. May my errors teach me humility and serve as caution for others. In this way, everything becomes usable, nothing wasted. Over time, this orientation reshapes identity. You stop thinking of yourself as an isolated individual struggling for personal gain. You see yourself as participant in a vast exchange, contributing energy, care, and presence. This identity is lighter, freer, more joyful. Life ceases to be a burden and becomes a gift continuously given. From the mirror of impermanence, where acceptance of change softens pride and fear, you step naturally into this practice of offering. What you saw reflected was a self that will pass. By dedicating that passing self to others, you transform fleetingness into meaning. The day ceases to be only yours. It becomes an act of service, a thread woven into the greater fabric of existence. And in that act of giving, you find not loss, but the deepest form of freedom. From the offering of the day, where actions, successes, and even struggles are given as gifts beyond the self, there arises a greater sense of lightness. But even with this dedication, the mind still encounters its storms. Thoughts appear, some small and fleeting, others sharp enough to pierce. Here lies one of the most subtle yet powerful practices, learning not to wound yourself twice. In Buddhist teaching, the first arrow is the unavoidable pain of life, but the second arrow is the suffering we create by reacting, replaying, and spiraling. A morning check-in with this truth, the no second arrow practice, can change the entire trajectory of the day. The first arrow is part of existence. You cannot avoid disappointment, illness, criticism, or loss. But what often makes these pains unbearable is the second arrow, the story you tell afterward. A harsh comment lands, and instead of letting it pass, you replay it. embellish it. Attach meaning, I am worthless, they always treat me this way, I'll never succeed. The mind multiplies the wound until it becomes larger than the original event. By checking in each morning with awareness, you prepare yourself to recognize these spirals before they take root. The check-in is a simple pause of self-honesty. As you wake and enter the day, ask yourself, what arrows am I carrying? Did I go to bed still replaying yesterday's mistakes? Did a thought about my body, my work, or my relationships already start to sting? The purpose is not to judge, but to notice. Recognition itself is healing. When you catch the arrow in awareness, you stop reaching for a second. The practice trains you to hold pain gently without adding layers of suffering. This is not suppression. Suppression denies the first arrow, pretending there is no pain. The check-in does the opposite. It acknowledges pain fully while refusing to multiply it. Acknowledgement sounds like, yes, that comment hurt, or yes, my body feels weak today. But then you stop. You resist weaving narratives that make the wound heavier. This is the art of not compounding. It is compassion applied directly to your own mind. The morning is a powerful time for this because thoughts are tender, unformed, and easily directed. A negative spiral caught in the first minutes can shape the mood for hours if unchecked. By starting the day with the no second arrow practice, you create resilience against these cascades. It is like building a dam at the river's source rather than trying to stop a flood downstream. The practice also teaches responsibility. You may not control the first arrow, but the second is yours. It is your choice whether to pick it up. This realization is empowering. Instead of feeling victim to every emotion, you recognize agency. You cannot prevent people from speaking harshly, but you can prevent yourself from stabbing deeper with your own thoughts. Each morning, as you check in, you strengthen this recognition. Practical application can be structured. After breath, silence, or offering, close your eyes for a moment. Scan the mind gently. Ask, what is here now? If you notice irritation, sadness, or self-criticism, name it softly. This is anger. This is worry. Naming separates you from identification. You are not anger itself. You are the one noticing anger. Then remind yourself, I do not need to add to this. That small step interrupts the spiral. Science supports this approach. Research on mindfulness shows that labeling emotions reduces activity in the brain's fear centers and increases regulation in higher regions. Catching the thought early prevents escalation. This is precisely the essence of the no second arrow practice awareness, breaking the cycle of automatic reaction. The check-in is also an act of kindness toward yourself. Too often, people treat their own minds with harshness, scolding themselves for feeling pain. But this only adds more arrows. Instead, meet the first arrow with compassion. It is natural to feel this. Then stop before adding blame or endless stories. This creates a gentler inner climate, reducing the stress that compounds suffering. The practice extends beyond the morning. Once established early, it becomes easier to apply during the day. When frustration arises in traffic, when a colleague criticizes, when plans collapse, you recall the practice. This is the first arrow. I will not add the second. Over time, this becomes habit, a protective reflex that shields you from unnecessary suffering. Relationships benefit greatly from this. Many conflicts are not caused by the first arrow, but by the second. A careless word is spoken, and instead of letting it go, it is replayed, magnified, weaponized. But with this practice, you pause. You see the arrow land. You acknowledge the sting, but you do not escalate. You respond more calmly, preventing the spiral of arguments and resentment. The result is more harmony, less regret. The check-in also fosters resilience in larger struggles. Illness, loss, or failure can feel overwhelming. But when you refrain from stabbing yourself with extra narratives, you conserve energy for healing. You suffer less unnecessarily. This does not remove pain but makes it bearable. Countless practitioners have found that by not adding the second arrow, they can endure difficulties with greater dignity and strength. The metaphor of arrows is powerful because it reveals how suffering compounds. If struck by one arrow, you feel pain. If you then shoot yourself with dozens more, you collapse. But if you refuse the second, you remain standing. The check-in each morning is your way of practicing refusal, not by denial, but by awareness. The practice also aligns with impermanence. When you resist spiraling, you give pain space to pass naturally. Every feeling, no matter how intense, is temporary. But when you cling to it with thoughts, you trap it. By not adding the second arrow, you allow the first to fade. This strengthens faith in the truth of impermanence. No pain lasts forever. Over months of practice, the check-in becomes second nature. You no longer wait for spirals to grow before noticing. You catch them at the seed. This creates a mind that is lighter, freer, less burdened by self-inflicted wounds. Life remains challenging, but you are no longer adding unnecessary suffering. In the morning, when the mirror has shown impermanence and the heart has offered the day to others, this check-in completes the foundation. It ensures that the gift you offer is not tainted by hidden spirals of negativity. You bring into the world a steadier presence, one less likely to harm yourself or others through compounded suffering. And so, the no second arrow check-in becomes a daily safeguard, a quiet but powerful ritual that trains the mind to meet pain with clarity and compassion. The arrows of life may still fly, but they no longer define you. Each morning, with awareness and practice, you learn the art of stopping at one. From the no second arrow check-in, where awareness prevents the mind from stabbing itself with unnecessary suffering, there naturally arises a longing for something gentler, something that reminds you not only of what to avoid but of what to embrace. If the practice of restraint protects you from harm, the practice of savoring nourishes you with joy. Few moments carry as much hidden potential as the very first taste you take each morning. Whether it is a sip of water, a cup of tea, or the first touch of coffee on the tongue, that beginning can be turned from habit into meditation, from consumption into reverence. The first taste is different from all the others. It carries the freshness of newness, unshaped by repetition. After hours of sleep, the body is ready to receive, and the mind, if attentive, can catch that first encounter with pure awareness. To savor it is to recognize that the ordinary act of drinking is layered with gratitude. The water in your cup may have fallen as rain decades ago, traveled rivers, been touched by soil and stone. The tea leaves may have been grown on a distant hillside, tended by hands you will never meet. The coffee beans may have passed through countless journeys to reach you. In that first sip, you hold the labor of earth and people, the generosity of nature, the interconnection of life. Presence in this moment means slowing down enough to notice. Instead of rushing or gulping, you pause before lifting the cup or glass. You see its color, feel its warmth or coolness, notice the scent rising. Already the senses are engaged, grounding you in the moment. Then, when the liquid touches your lips, you allow the experience to unfold fully, the texture, the temperature, the flavor spreading across the tongue. This is not indulgence, but mindfulness. It is the act of being here completely for what is happening, without distraction. Gratitude naturally arises when you give attention to the first taste. So much had to align for this moment to exist. Weather patterns, labor, transportation, preparation. To receive it without noticing would be to live blind to life's gifts. By savoring, you transform the first sip into a thank you, not spoken but felt. Gratitude shifts the heart's state. It softens complaints, reduces entitlement, and increases contentment. Studies have shown that people who practice daily gratitude experience greater well-being and resilience. Here, the first taste becomes a practical way to embody that truth. The practice also trains patience. In modern life, speed dominates. Drinks are swallowed while multitasking, meals consumed in haste. By slowing down to savor the first taste, you resist this culture of rushing. You learn that slowness has value, that depth is richer than speed. This patience carries into the rest of the day. Tasks are met with steadiness, conversations with attentiveness, challenges with calm. A single sip can become the seed of a more spacious life. There is also symbolism in beginning the day with savoring. The first taste is a metaphor for how you meet all experiences. If you rush through it, you are likely to rush through the rest of the day. If you meet it with awareness, gratitude, and presence, you set a tone that colors everything that follows. This is why monks and practitioners often treat meals and drinks as part of meditation. They know that how you begin determines how you continue. The body itself benefits from this practice. Drinking water slowly in the morning hydrates and awakens the system. Tea and coffee, when consumed mindfully, stimulate without overwhelming. But beyond physical effects, the mindful sip regulates breathing and calms the nervous system. You are not simply drinking, you are aligning body and mind in rhythm. This practice can also become an anchor for reflection. As you hold the cup, you might reflect, "This sip connects me to the earth, to the rain, to the sun, to countless beings." With coffee, you might think of the farmer tending plants in distant soil. With tea, the centuries of tradition carried in leaves. With water, the rivers and clouds that cycle endlessly. Each thought expands awareness outward, reminding you that even the simplest act of drinking is a meeting with the vast web of existence. For those who struggle with mindfulness, the first taste is an accessible entry point. You do not need long meditation sessions or complex rituals. You only need to pause for a few breaths before drinking. This small gesture, repeated daily, accumulates power. Over time, it becomes natural. You no longer think of it as practice, it becomes simply how you begin. The first taste also teaches impermanence. The sip arises, touches, and fades. You cannot hold on to it, you cannot freeze the sensation. This fleetingness, when observed, becomes a gentle lesson. It mirrors how all moments of life pass. Instead of clinging, you learn to appreciate while present. This reduces grasping and increases peace. In relationships, this practice has subtle effects. When you learn to savor rather than rush, you extend the same quality to people. You listen more attentively, notice more deeply, appreciate more fully. The habit of savoring transfers from sip to speech, from drink to dialogue. Relationships strengthen when presence replaces distraction. Savoring the first taste also reshapes consumption itself. When you notice fully, you often find you need less. One mindful sip can bring more satisfaction than many rushed ones. This reduces excess and fosters simplicity. In a world of constant consumption, the practice of savoring becomes an antidote, teaching that depth is richer than quantity. Spiritual traditions across cultures affirm the sacredness of food and drink. Blessings before meals, offerings of water, ceremonial tea rituals all embody the same truth. Nourishment is not ordinary. It is connection, gift, and practice. To savor the first taste each morning is to align with this wisdom, to remember that nothing is mundane when approached with awareness. Over time, this practice changes identity. You no longer see yourself as a hurried consumer, but as a mindful participant in life's flow. Each sip reminds you that you are part of something larger, and each morning you begin with gratitude rather than complaint. This identity is lighter, freer, more attuned to joy. And so, from the awareness of the second arrow, where suffering is prevented from compounding, you move naturally into savoring, where joy is allowed to deepen. Pain may be part of life, but so is beauty. The first taste each morning is a chance to honor that beauty, to begin the day not with rushing but with reverence, not with absence but with presence. A sip of water, tea, or coffee becomes more than refreshment. It becomes a meditation, a lesson, a quiet celebration of being alive. From the first taste, where gratitude enters through a sip and presence awakens the senses, there is a natural opening for something subtler, something that does not depend on flavor or touch. Once the body has been nourished, the mind seeks a different kind of nourishment, one that clears heaviness, steadies emotions, and creates a sacred atmosphere within. This is where the practice of lighting inner incense begins. Not smoke rising from a stick, but breath itself offered as a silent fragrance to wisdom. Each inhale and exhale becomes a purification, not of the air around you, but of the mind that carries yesterday's residue and today's restlessness. To think of breath as incense is to shift its role from survival to offering. Breath keeps you alive whether or not you notice it, but when treated as incense, it becomes devotion. With each inhale, you gather clarity. With each exhale, you release what clouds it. The act is not external but inward, yet it has the same effect as entering a temple scented with fragrance. The atmosphere shifts, heaviness dissolves, reverence arises. This inner incense requires no flame, no altar, no stick. It requires only awareness and sincerity. The practice begins by sitting quietly, breathing naturally, and visualizing each breath as carrying fragrance. Inhaling is like drawing in wisdom, calm, or compassion. Exhaling is like releasing tension, anger, or fear. Over time, the breath itself begins to feel lighter, smoother, as though the very act of breathing cleanses the inner world. The body relaxes, the mind steadies, and the heart feels purified without effort. The symbolism of incense deepens this practice. In traditions across cultures, incense is offered as respect to the sacred. Its smoke rises upward, symbolizing prayers or intentions carried beyond the self. By imagining each breath as incense, you turn daily breathing into sacred offering. You are not waiting for a temple. You are carrying the temple within. This reframes ordinary existence into spiritual practice. The purifying quality of this ritual lies in its ability to release residue. Each day leaves behind impressions, arguments, worries, regrets. Without attention, they accumulate like dust in a room. Lighting inner incense through breath clears this dust. The inhale brings in fresh air, the exhale sweeps out what no longer serves. Practiced consistently, mornings feel less like continuation of yesterday and more like genuine renewal. Science affirms the cleansing power of mindful breathing. Slow, deliberate breaths reduce cortisol, calm the sympathetic nervous system, and create mental clarity. By linking this with the incense metaphor, the practice moves beyond biology into meaning. The breath is not only regulating the body, it is purifying the spirit. This meaning reinforces motivation, making the practice more powerful than simple breathwork. The ritual also nurtures humility. By offering breath as incense, you recognize that wisdom is not something you produce by force, but something you align with. Each offering is a gesture of openness, a way of saying, "May I be guided, may I be cleansed." This humility prevents pride and grounds the practice in sincerity. Lighting inner incense also strengthens focus. By visualizing fragrance flowing with the breath, you anchor attention. The mind that normally drifts is gently held by image and sensation. Over time, this strengthens concentration not only during practice but throughout the day. Work, conversation, and decisions are approached with more clarity because the morning began with focused breathing. There is also an emotional dimension. Anger, envy, or sadness can feel like smoke filling the mind, making it hard to see clearly. The breath as incense practice meets this directly. Each inhale is imagined as drawing in clear air, each exhale as releasing smoke. Over time, this imagery helps emotions loosen their grip. You stop being consumed by them and start transforming them into offerings. Even anger becomes material for purification because the act of breathing with awareness changes its energy. In relationships, this practice has quiet impact. When you begin the day with inner incense, you carry a calmer presence into interactions. Others feel the steadiness, even if they cannot name it. The space around you feels lighter, as though your breath has cleared tension before it could spread. This influence often softens conflicts and deepens connection, proving that inner purification radiates outward. The practice can be personalized. Some visualize incense rising from the heart, others from the breath itself, others as a light expanding with each exhale. Some pair it with silent phrases: inhale clarity, exhale release. The form is flexible, the essence is the same, treating breath as sacred offering. The personalization makes it sustainable, something that adapts to individual temperament. Over time, the effect is cumulative. Just as rooms scented with incense hold fragrance long after the stick has burned, the mind scented with breath offerings carries calm long after practice ends. The day unfolds with less reactivity, more spaciousness. Challenges feel less suffocating because the inner air has already been cleansed. The ritual also reconnects you with impermanence. Each breath arises, lingers, and fades. When visualized as incense, this becomes more vivid. You watch the offering dissolve moment by moment, reminding you that life itself is fleeting. This awareness deepens gratitude. You stop taking breaths for granted, recognizing each one as gift and offering simultaneously. For those who struggle with guilt, regret, or heaviness, this practice offers renewal. By dedicating exhalations as release, you symbolically forgive yourself and let go. You stop carrying yesterday's weight into today. By dedicating inhalations as offering, you open to guidance and possibility. This dual movement creates balance, letting go and opening up, cleansing and receiving. The practice also aligns with ecological awareness. When breath is treated as incense, you become more conscious of air itself, of the environment that sustains you. Gratitude for breath expands into care for the air shared by all beings. This naturally inspires gentler choices, reminding you that purifying the inner environment goes hand in hand with protecting the outer one. At its deepest, lighting inner incense is an act of devotion, not to a deity outside, but to wisdom itself, to the possibility of awakening that exists within. Each breath offered is a reminder that life itself can be sacred if approached with reverence. You need not wait for special occasions. Every inhale and exhale can be turned into prayer. From the savoring of the first taste, where gratitude enters through a sip, the journey continues into this subtler practice of offering breath as fragrance. Together, they weave body and spirit, reminding you that nourishment comes not only from food and drink, but from awareness and intention. By lighting inner incense each morning, you purify the space within, preparing to carry clarity, peace, and reverence into all that follows. From the practice of lighting inner incense, where each breath becomes a silent offering to wisdom and a clearing of the inner space, the mind is purified and the heart softened. Yet once the inner environment is cleansed, there remains one more gesture to seal the intention of the morning, a gesture not directed outward to others, nor upward to the sacred, but inward to the self. This is the gentle bow, an act of recognition that honors your own humanity, not from pride or ego, but from respect and compassion for the being who must walk through the day ahead. The bow to the self is simple in movement but profound in meaning. It is the acknowledgement that before you can serve, before you can offer, before you can meet others with patience or kindness, you must also honor your own existence. Too often, people begin their days with self-criticism or neglect, measuring themselves against impossible standards or rushing into obligations without a pause of respect. The bow interrupts this cycle. It is a way of saying, I am worthy of care, I am deserving of dignity, I am human, and that is enough. This gesture is not about inflating self-importance. In fact, it dissolves the ego by reframing the self not as an object to be praised or condemned, but as a living being among beings. Just as you might bow before a teacher, a temple, or a symbol of wisdom, here you bow to the life force within you. The bow says, this body that breathes, this mind that feels, this heart that beats it too, is sacred. The practice begins simply. Stand or sit quietly, hands together or resting gently at your sides. Close your eyes for a breath, then bow slightly forward, not to demand, not to worship, but to honor. While bowing, you may silently affirm words such as, may I walk gently today, or I honor the life within me. Over time, the bow carries energy beyond words. It becomes a felt expression of reverence, a grounding before entering the world. Psychologically, this practice carries immense healing. Many live with an inner critic that attacks from the moment they wake. Not enough sleep, not attractive enough, not productive enough. The bow interrupts that harshness with kindness. It replaces judgment with respect. This shift changes the entire tone of the day. Instead of carrying self-doubt, you carry self-recognition. Studies on self-compassion reveal that those who treat themselves kindly are more resilient, less anxious, and more motivated not from fear, but from respect. The bow encapsulates this truth in a simple movement. Spiritually, bowing has long symbolized humility and connection. In temples, bows are offered to Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, not to diminish oneself, but to align with wisdom. When you bow to yourself, the same principle applies. You are not exalting the ego, you are recognizing that within you exists the same capacity for awakening, the same dignity inherent in all beings. This recognition strengthens self-trust. You begin the day knowing that you are not a mistake or a burden, but a participant in life's sacred unfolding. The bow also carries cultural echoes. Across traditions, Japan, Korea, India, Tibet, bowing conveys respect, gratitude, and acknowledgement. By bowing to yourself, you adopt this universal language of reverence and turn it inward. It feels both ancient and deeply personal, linking you to a long lineage of gestures that honor life. The practice is also protective. When you bow to yourself in the morning, you establish boundaries. You remind yourself, I will not treat myself with cruelty today. I will not diminish my worth. This quiet promise shields you from the harsh voices of comparison and external judgment. It strengthens resilience by grounding dignity in self-respect rather than outside approval. Over time, the bow becomes more than a morning ritual. It shapes identity. You begin to carry yourself differently, shoulders straighter, voice steadier, presence calmer. Respecting yourself inwardly manifests outwardly in how you engage with others. Paradoxically, those who honor themselves are less self-centered because they no longer need constant validation. Their dignity is rooted within, allowing them to meet others with openness and generosity. The bow also carries emotional release. For those who carry shame or regret, bowing to the self can be a radical act of forgiveness. It is a way of saying, even with mistakes, even with flaws, I honor the humanity in me. This is not indulgence, it is liberation. Shame contracts the heart, but respect expands it. By practicing daily, you gradually loosen the grip of shame and replace it with compassion. There is a subtle lesson in impermanence here as well. Each morning bow is unique, never to be repeated. The body that bows today is slightly different from yesterday, cells changed, mind altered, experiences added. The bow acknowledges this shifting identity while still honoring the continuity of being. You are not the same as you were, yet you bow to the life that continues to unfold. In relationships, this practice has invisible but profound impact. When you honor yourself, you are less likely to demand constant recognition from others. You meet them without the hunger for validation, which creates healthier connections. You also become more capable of honoring others, because you have practiced reverence within. Respect, once cultivated inwardly, radiates outward. Practically, the bow can be combined with other rituals. After lighting inner incense with the breath, you bow to seal the purification. After savoring the first sip of water or tea, you bow to acknowledge the gift of being alive to taste it. After offering the day to others, you bow to affirm your role as participant. In this way, the bow becomes both beginning and closing, a gesture that integrates all practices into the body. For those who feel resistance, fearing that bowing to oneself is self-indulgent, remember that the bow is not for ego, but for humanity. You are bowing not to the self-image, not to accomplishments, but to the raw fact of being alive, fragile, and worthy of respect. This humility is the opposite of arrogance. It trains you to honor life in all forms, starting with your own. Over time, this simple act transforms mornings. No matter what challenges await, you begin with dignity. No matter what mistakes you carry, you begin with forgiveness. No matter what doubts whisper, you begin with respect. The bow grounds you in humanity before the day tests you with its demands. From the inner incense, where breath purifies, you move into the bow, where reverence anchors. Together they create balance, one clearing the space, the other affirming the worth of the one who inhabits it. Each morning, when you bow gently to yourself, you are not just preparing for the day. You are declaring silently, I am human, I am worthy, I will walk with respect. And that single gesture, repeated daily, becomes a foundation of peace that no storm can easily erode. From the gentle bow to the self, where dignity and compassion are offered inwardly as a way of honoring your own humanity, the heart grows steadier and more receptive. Yet if you look closely, even this act of reverence can carry traces of the past, the memories, the mistakes, the victories, the identities you've built and clung to. Respecting yourself is essential. But what if you could meet yourself without any baggage at all? What if each morning could be lived as if nothing had come before? This is the practice of beginner's mind at sunrise. A conscious choice to meet the day with eyes unclouded, free from yesterday's weight, alive to the freshness that is always present but rarely seen. Beginner's mind is the state of openness, where nothing is taken for granted. It is the opposite of habit, where you think you already know. When you meet the morning with beginner's mind, you do not say, here is the same bed, the same routine, the same life. You say, here is a new chance, a new breath, a new sky. This shift is subtle but revolutionary. Instead of dragging yesterday into today, you allow today to stand on its own. The practice begins the moment you wake. Normally, thoughts of unfinished tasks or lingering regrets rush in immediately. Beginner's mind interrupts this pattern. As your eyes open, you remind yourself, this is the first time I have ever woken to this day. This particular morning has never existed before, and it never will again. The weight of yesterday dissolves, because today is not yesterday's repetition, it is creation. This perspective reshapes how you meet ordinary things. The same sunlight through the window becomes extraordinary when seen as if for the first time. The air entering your lungs is no longer routine, it is miracle. Even your own face in the mirror, shifting with age, becomes a subject of curiosity rather than judgment. Beginner's mind transforms the world from dull to vivid, from assumed to alive. Psychologically, this practice frees you from the prison of memory. Memory is useful but also heavy. It convinces you that the future will always mirror the past. Beginner's mind breaks that chain. It says, the past has ended. It cannot dictate this moment. This does not erase memory, but it loosens its grip. You can learn from experience without being confined by it. This is particularly powerful in mornings, when the direction of the day is still forming. The practice also cultivates creativity. When you meet life as if new possibilities expand, you are not stuck in the assumption that this is how things are. You see alternative paths, fresh solutions, new perspectives. Artists and innovators often speak of the power of seeing with childlike wonder. Beginner's mind is precisely that wonder structured into daily practice. There is humility in this approach. To see with beginner's mind is to admit that you do not know everything. Arrogance assumes. Curiosity asks. When you wake with curiosity, you meet people differently. You do not assume you know who they are based on past impressions. You allow them to surprise you. This humility heals relationships because it grants others the same freshness you grant yourself. Practicing at sunrise amplifies the effect. Dawn itself embodies beginner's mind. No matter what happened the night before, storms, darkness, silence, the sun rises anew, impartial and fresh. Aligning yourself with that rhythm each morning deepens the practice. You wake not to carry yesterday's storms, but to rise like the sun, shining without memory, present to what is here. The practice can be nurtured through simple affirmations. Upon waking, silently say, "This is new." Repeat it while breathing, while stepping out of bed, while opening curtains. The repetition anchors the state of mind. Over time, the brain begins to associate mornings with freshness automatically, breaking the habit of dragging old thoughts into new hours. Science echoes this. Research on mindfulness shows that novelty stimulates brain activity, increasing focus and joy. When you deliberately see the ordinary as new, you trick the brain into heightened awareness. This combats the autopilot state that leads to dissatisfaction. Beginner's mind is not only spiritual, it is biological renewal. The practice also trains resilience. By treating each morning as first, failures lose their sting. Yesterday's mistakes do not define today because today is untouched. This prevents despair and nurtures persistence. Every day is a reset, a chance to begin again. This attitude is profoundly liberating, allowing you to carry less regret and more courage. In relationships, beginner's mind softens judgment. Instead of saying, "I know how this person will act," you meet them as if for the first time. You listen more deeply, observe more carefully, and respond more openly. This revitalizes long-term relationships where habit often dulls perception. Suddenly, familiar faces reveal new depths. In spiritual practice, beginner's mind is foundational. Teachers often say, "The mind of the beginner is vast, the mind of the expert is narrow." Expertise closes doors, curiosity opens them. When you wake each day as a beginner, you remain a student of life. This prevents stagnation and keeps growth alive. Practically, you can reinforce the practice through sensory awareness. Feel the texture of the sheets as if never felt before. Hear the morning sounds without labeling. Taste breakfast with full presence. Each sense becomes gateway to wonder. By training this attentiveness, You carry beginner's mind beyond the morning into the entire day. The practice also dismantles fear. Fear often arises from projecting past pain into future possibilities. Beginner's mind interrupts that projection. It reminds you, the future has not arrived, and the present is not the past. This breaks cycles of anxiety and allows you to meet situations with clarity rather than dread. Over time, this orientation reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as fixed by history. You begin to view yourself as process, always unfolding, always capable of renewal. This identity is fluid, adaptable, and hopeful. You no longer say, "I am this way because of my past." You say, "I am new in this moment." The depth of this practice lies in its simplicity. It does not require rituals or tools, only willingness to see differently. But simplicity does not mean smallness. Applied daily, beginner's mind transforms how you meet life itself. It removes the dust of habit and reveals the brilliance hidden beneath, and so, from the gentle bow of self-respect, you step into the vastness of curiosity. Each morning is no longer a continuation of yesterday, but a new dawn, unburdened, alive. By practicing beginner's mind at sunrise, you reclaim the freshness that life always offers, but that habit always hides. You wake not as prisoner of memory, but as witness to wonder, ready to live this day as though it were the very first. From the freshness of beginner's mind, where each sunrise is treated as if it were the first and every moment arrives without yesterday's burden, a new invitation emerges. If you are truly willing to meet life as new, you must also be willing to pause before filling it with motion. Beginners do not rush, they watch, they listen, they absorb. This is why the next step is stillness. Before rushing into tasks, before falling into the rhythm of doing, there is wisdom in pausing, even for a few breaths. This pause is not emptiness but fullness, not laziness but learning. It is the Dharma of stillness, where the heart is reminded that presence precedes action, and clarity arises not from speed, but from quiet. Stillness in the morning is unlike stillness at any other time. The world is only beginning to stir, the mind has not yet been carried away, and there is a natural softness in the body after sleep. If you claim this moment, you create a foundation that steadies you for the rest of the day. But if you leap immediately into movement-checking devices, planning schedules, solving problems, you scatter the mind before it has a chance to gather. The Dharma of stillness asks you to wait, to allow being to come before doing. To dwell in stillness is to discover that silence is not absence, but presence. Beneath the noise of thought, there is always a quiet center, but it is rarely felt because of constant rushing. By pausing, you allow this center to reveal itself. It is not something you create, it is something you uncover. The more often you sit with it, the more familiar it becomes, until stillness no longer feels foreign but like a home you had forgotten. Practicing stillness does not require long retreats or hours of meditation. It can be a minute of sitting on the edge of the bed before standing, a few breaths by the window before dressing, a pause after washing before reaching for the next task. What matters is the intention to be still without demand. You are not still to achieve, not still to improve, but still to be. This reframing is essential. If stillness is turned into another task, its essence is lost. The Dharma of stillness also teaches patience. When you stop rushing, you realize how much of your anxiety is created by imagined urgency. Most tasks can wait a breath. Most worries do not require immediate solutions. Stillness reveals that much of life's speed is self-imposed. This realization loosens the grip of pressure and allows you to move more deliberately with less waste of energy. In Buddhist teaching, stillness is often described as the ground from which wisdom grows. Just as a pond must be calm to reflect the moon, the mind must be still to reflect truth. When ripples of restlessness disturb the surface, perception is distorted. But in stillness, clarity arises naturally. Beginning the day this way ensures that your decisions are guided not by agitation but by insight. Science supports this as well. Studies show that brief moments of quiet in the morning reduce cortisol spikes, regulate mood, and improve focus. The brain, when allowed a few minutes of non-doing, enters a state of integration, strengthening connections that support memory and creativity. This means that stillness is not wasted time, it is an investment in effectiveness. By pausing, you paradoxically prepare to do more, but from steadiness rather than frenzy. The practice of stillness also carries spiritual depth. To dwell without movement is to taste the truth that you are not only what you accomplish. In a world that measures worth by productivity, stillness reclaims dignity in being. You do not need to prove yourself in the first minutes of the day. You need only to be alive, to breathe, to rest in the miracle of existence. This reorientation shifts the entire day from striving to presence. For many, stillness feels uncomfortable at first. The mind rushes to fill the silence. The body resists, pausing. This discomfort is itself a teacher. It reveals how addicted you are to distraction and activity. By staying with it gently, you learn that the discomfort passes, and beneath it lies ease. Each morning of practice loosens the habit of restlessness, making stillness more natural. Stillness also deepens gratitude. When you stop, you notice subtle details otherwise missed. The faint sound of birds, the coolness of morning air, the texture of breath. These small observations remind you that life is already full before you add anything. Gratitude arises not from acquiring, but from noticing. The Dharma of stillness trains this noticing. In relationships, practicing stillness in the morning ripples outward. When you begin steady, you carry that steadiness into interactions. You are less reactive, more patient, more attentive. Others feel the calm you radiate. In this way, your personal practice becomes collective benefit, reducing conflict and increasing harmony. The Dharma of stillness also prepares you for impermanence. By dwelling quietly, you witness change without interference, the breath shifting, light moving, sounds rising and fading. You realize that life unfolds on its own without your control. This recognition builds acceptance. Instead of fighting change throughout the day, you move with it, because you have already practiced letting go in stillness. Practically, the habit can be reinforced by ritual. You might light a candle and sit silently before it. You might place a hand on your chest and feel the heartbeat without distraction. You might simply sit with eyes closed, following breath for a few moments. These simple rituals give structure to stillness, making it easier to sustain. Over time, stillness becomes less of a pause and more of a state carried throughout the day. Even in motion, you feel a quiet center. This is the true fruit of practice, not that you pause once in the morning, but that the pause lives in you always. Decisions are made from calm, not haste. Words are spoken from presence, not reaction. Life becomes less scattered, more whole. And so, from the freshness of beginner's mind, you move naturally into the Dharma of stillness. To begin the day not by rushing but by dwelling, not by scattering but by gathering, is to honor the truth that being comes before doing. In that quiet, you remember who you are beyond roles and tasks. And when you step into action, you carry with you the clarity born not from speed, but from silence. From the Dharma of stillness, where you learn to rest in quiet before rushing into action, there comes a natural question: how do you move forward once you rise? Stillness prepares the heart, but the world will still ask for your time, your energy, your attention. The way you choose to shape your hours will either protect the peace you cultivated or scatter it again. This is where compassionate scheduling becomes a practice. It is not about cramming more into the day or bending yourself into impossible productivity. It is about arranging time with care, both for yourself and for those whose lives intersect with yours. Compassionate scheduling begins with recognition that time is not an enemy to be conquered, but a field to be cultivated. Most people treat their schedule like a battlefield, filling it with obligations, deadlines, and relentless striving. The result is exhaustion and resentment. Compassion reframes this entirely. Instead of asking, "How much can I do?" the question becomes, "How can I shape my time in a way that honors well-being?" This shift changes not only how tasks are managed, but how life is lived. The practice starts by considering yourself. Self-compassion in scheduling means acknowledging limits, respecting rhythms, and refusing to treat the body and mind as machines. Instead of overloading the day with tasks that ignore your need for rest, you pace them with awareness. You place demanding tasks when energy is highest and leave gentler moments for when energy dips. You allow pauses, not as wasted time, but as essential breathing spaces. This prevents burnout and cultivates sustainability, turning your schedule from punishment into support. Compassion also extends outward. Every task on your schedule connects to others, family, colleagues, community. Compassionate scheduling means considering how your timing affects them. Is the meeting scheduled in a way that allows others to breathe? Is the request you send respectful of their workload? Are you leaving room for presence with loved ones rather than filling every space with work? This lens transforms the schedule from a self-centered map to a shared rhythm of respect. The practice demands honesty. Often, people agree to more than they can handle, crowding the day with unrealistic expectations. Compassion asks you to be truthful. What can I actually do well without harming myself or others? This honesty prevents the suffering caused by overcommitment. It also builds trust, because when you commit from compassion, you follow through with presence rather than resentment. There is a spiritual dimension to this. In Buddhism, compassion is not only about kindness in feeling, but wisdom in action. To schedule compassionately is to embody this wisdom. You recognize that your time is not infinite, and therefore how you use it matters. Each appointment, each task, each pause becomes an expression of care. The day itself becomes a living practice, a mandala of compassion arranged hour by hour. Science supports this approach. Research shows that people who balance work with rest, who schedule realistically, and who prioritize meaningful tasks experience less stress and greater fulfillment. Compassionate scheduling aligns with this by creating harmony between demands and resources. Instead of draining energy until collapse, it nurtures a steady flow that sustains well-being. Practical methods make this real. Begin each morning by reviewing your tasks through the lens of compassion. Ask, which tasks are essential and which are unnecessary burdens? Which ones align with my values and which can be released? Where can I allow space for breath? This review transforms a to-do list into a compassionate map. Over time, it becomes habit, and the very act of planning becomes meditation. Compassion also means flexibility. Life rarely follows perfect order, and rigidity breeds frustration. By holding the schedule lightly, you allow room for change without anger. When delays occur, you breathe, adjust, and move forward. This flexibility prevents the second arrow of suffering, because you no longer view disruption as catastrophe but as natural flow. Relationships flourish under this practice. When you schedule compassionately, you leave room for presence with others. You are not constantly distracted or resentful because you have not overloaded yourself. Family feels your attention, colleagues sense your steadiness, and strangers benefit from your patience. Compassionate time management radiates outward, shaping not only your life but the lives around you. The practice also challenges cultural conditioning. Modern society glorifies busyness, equating worth with productivity. Compassionate scheduling rebels against this illusion. It insists that rest is as valuable as work, that presence is more important than speed, that kindness is a better measure of success than output. Living this way is radical because it refuses to sacrifice humanity to efficiency. Another benefit is clarity of priorities. When you schedule with compassion, you naturally choose tasks that matter most. Superficial demands fall away, leaving space for what is meaningful. This creates alignment between values and actions, reducing the inner conflict of living one way while believing another. The day feels more coherent, more authentic. Morning is the best time for this reflection because the day is still pliable. Once momentum begins, it is harder to change course. By practicing compassionate scheduling at sunrise, you set the tone before urgency takes over. The hours that follow unfold not as accidents but as conscious expressions of care. For those who struggle with guilt when leaving space, remember that compassion includes yourself. Empty space is not laziness, it is nourishment. Just as the body needs rest between breaths, the mind needs pauses between tasks. Without them, energy collapses. With them, life flows smoothly. Compassion reminds you that you deserve the same care you offer others. Over time, this practice reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as a slave to time and begin seeing yourself as a steward of it. Each day becomes a canvas, and you paint it not with frantic strokes but with mindful placement. The result is not a schedule crammed with obligations, but a life filled with balance, dignity, and kindness. And so, from the Dharma of stillness, where you learn to pause before action, you move naturally into compassionate scheduling, where you shape the day itself with wisdom and care. The hours ahead are no longer cages of pressure, but pathways of compassion, guiding you to live not faster but deeper, not harsher but gentler, with yourself and with all who share your time. When you weave these 6 teachings into your mornings, the first breath as sacred reset, the silence that teaches, the vow to serve as a bodhisattva, the noble pause before words, the transformation of routine into ritual, and the 4 immeasurables rising with the sun, you're not just starting the day differently, you're rewiring the way you live. These practices don't demand hours of meditation or monastery walls. They ask only for awareness, sincerity, and the willingness to meet each morning as a doorway into peace. Every inhale, every sip, every word, every pause becomes a chance to create harmony inside and around you. And when mornings change, days change. When days change, life itself begins to feel lighter, steadier, and more meaningful. Now, I'd love to hear from you out of these 6 teachings. Which one speaks to you most deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your reflections may be the inspiration someone else needs. And if you found value here and want to keep growing with more wisdom like this, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell so every sunrise can become a little more peaceful, a little more powerful.